A busy morning on the lake. The women's quadruple sculls and this British team in lane 4 of Hannah Scott and the three debutantes, Georgia Brayshaw, Lola Anderson and Lauren Henry, are looking fantastic here, Jess Eddy. They're comfortably leading with 300 metres to go and they're looking on course for Wednesday's final.
Yeah, they've really taken this event by the scruff of the neck, coming in as world champions, European champions, and they have clear water over the field.
Already today, we've seen Matilda Hodgkins-Byrne and Becky Wild qualified for the semi-finals of the women's double sculls. In the men's quad, the GB team second in the heat behind the dominant Dutch. So Team GB in the men's quadruple sculls into the final, and the women's quad sculls really fancied for a medal. One of 4, 5, maybe 6 British crews in this regatta who were expected to be well in medal contention, if not bronze and if not gold, then certainly bronze and silver. And this 4 of Scott, Brayshaw, Anderson and Henry, with under 70 metres to go, are just easing to the finish line, and they are going to comfortably book their place as one of the top 2 from this heat to qualify for that final. They win this heat, this second heat of the women's quadruple sculls, and the GB team, Jess Eddy, silver medalist in Rio 2016. So far so good, not just for this women's quad sculls, but on the water in general for GB this morning.
Great morning for Great Britain. We're in 2 Olympic finals next week through these results, and a strong performance from our women's double scull.
So Tony, just to recap what we've seen on the lake this morning, the single sculls, men and women's, no British interest in that, but seen the likes of Simon van Dorp and Oliver Zeidler and Emma Twigg and Florine all state their claim for medals in the single sculls. In the women's double sculls, Hodgkins-Byrne and Wild, from a GB point of view, have qualified for the semi-finals. That will be on Tuesday. And in the quad sculls, the men into Wednesday's final, they were second in their heat, and the women's quad sculls, highly fancied for a medal, have started really well into Wednesday's final. They're the top seeds, they're the European and world champions, and they've comfortably won this second heat of the women's quadruple sculls. And as Jess Eddy was saying, it caps off a very solid opening morning on the lake for Team GB.
Thanks, Chris. Chris Jones and Jess Eddy there watching the rowing. That's pretty much it for our morning coverage here on 5 Live, but don't go anywhere. It goes on all day. Chappers is up next. Kelly Cates will take over from Chappers. We've not mentioned the badminton much this morning. The British pair of Ben Lane and Sean Vendy lost their opening match in the group stages to Malaysia. They play China in the doubles in their second match tomorrow. Chris was saying we've had success in the rowing through to final. Sarah Orchard reported on the hockey this morning. Britain's men beat Spain. Sonia's been covering the equestrian eventing. Britain well placed there. Elliot, the gymnastics. So we've heard Britain's men place their swimming here, amongst other things. Adam Peaty on good form. The big news of the morning, though, is Britain have their first medal on the board. They haven't won a medal on day one since 2004, I think, was Jonathan Overend's stat earlier on. Well, this morning that all changed. Scarlett Mujensen and Yasmin Harper won bronze in the women's synchronised 3 metres springboard. It was a brilliant moment. They were in tears. We were having kittens because it was so stressful. Anyway, we have a medal on the board. That's it for me. Chappers up next. Let's get the latest 5 Live news with Dina Campbell.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
The French railway network says staff have worked through the night to restore services, a day after coordinated sabotage attacks on the network. The French Transport Minister says the situation is expected to return to normal for high-speed trains on Monday. Simon Calder is a travel journalist.
Today, Eurostar was planning to run 15 trains from London to Paris Gare du Nord. 4 of those have been cancelled. That means 3,000 people are now looking for alternative ways to get to Paris, and it's very, very difficult.
The Chancellor is eyeing up the possibility of delaying new infrastructure projects for roads and hospitals to try and fill what Labour is calling a black hole in the public finances. A report by the Financial Times says a planned tunnel under Stonehenge in Wiltshire could be one of the affected projects. In a speech on Monday, Rachel Reeves is expected to say she's inherited unfunded schemes from the previous Conservative government. Authorities in Gaza say at least 12 Palestinians have been killed in an Israeli airstrike on a school in the west of the territory. The Gazan Civil Defence says the school was housing civilians displaced by the war. Elsewhere, the Israeli military has issued new evacuation orders to Palestinians in the south of Khan Yunis. It says there's been rocket fire from the area. Our correspondent Mark Lowen has been following developments from Jerusalem.
They have redesignated or adjusted the boundaries of the humanitarian zone. The reason that's important is because that would suggest that an Israeli operation in that part of al-Mawasi is imminent. A couple of days ago, the Israeli military did a similar thing. They also announced a readjustment of the lines of that humanitarian zone before they went in to retrieve the bodies of 5 Israelis.
Cineworld has announced plans to close 6 cinemas. The company's UK operation entered administration in July last year. Under a new restructuring plan, cinemas in Glasgow Parkhead, Bedford, Hinckley, Loughborough, Yate and Swindon Circus will all close.
There are few sibling rivalries that have gripped us quite like that of Liam and Noel Gallagher.
He had a row with me, so we had a fight and that was it. And then I trashed the place, yeah.
The rise and fall of Oasis, a band committed to the rock and roll dream.
I mean, we're not angels, but we're not supposed to make up.
Join me, Steve Lamack.
And me, Jo Wiley, as we not only celebrate the music that Oasis made, but also delve into the complex and unruly rivalry.
There's only so many olive branches you can give someone, you know what I mean? But that's life.
A band with your brother, that would become the Achilles heel in the end.
The rise and fall of Oasis.
Listen now on BBC Sounds.
The Olympic Games, Paris 2024.
With Mark Chapman.
On BBC Radio 5 Live.
Afternoon, day 1 of Paris 2024. The first medal for Great Britain has come in the diving.
It's going to be a bronze for Great Britain, and it's going to be Britain's first ever female synchro diving medal. What an extraordinary achievement from Scarlett Mew-Jensen and Yasmin Harper.
Great Britain's first opening day medal since 2004. Elsewhere so far today, Max Whitlock has got his 4th Olympics underway in the artistic gymnastics qualifying. Adam Peaty won his heat and he's through to the men's 100 metres breaststroke semi-final. GB men's hockey team beat Spain 4-0. Coming up this afternoon, Britain have medal hopes in both the women and the men's time trial in the road cycling. The host France will be aiming to win their first medal in the men's rugby sevens. All of the action on the BBC Sport website, on BBC One and on the iPlayer.
The Olympic Games, Paris 2024.
With Mark Chapman.
On BBC Radio 5 Live.
So we'll hear from Britain's medalists, first medalists of the Games very shortly, but let's just move away from Paris and go to Edgbaston, day 2 of the third test, England against the West Indies, and the hosts have got a fight on their hands here, Dan Norcross.
Well, they do. They're 105 for 5. That actually represents something of a recovery. They were 54 for 5 after losing 2 early wickets today. Pope dragging on Shamar Joseph early on, and then Harry Brook edging behind. That was 54 for 5 at that stage. Now, Joe Root and Ben Stokes have got a bit of a recovery job going. Root has 41, Stokes has 17. I'm alongside former England batter Mark Ramprakash. These two are just showing that there are no real demons in the pitch, aren't they, Mark?
Absolutely. Yeah, Joe Root looks at his best. His alignment looks good, balance, timing. He's playing the ball late. He's a real craftsman. I mean, is it any wonder that he's scored the amount of runs that he has in his career? He's an absolute class act, and he's going along quite serenely. Ticking the ball over, scoring both sides of the wicket as he often does. And Ben Stokes, the England captain, who's probably due a score, he's looked pretty good. He's hit the middle of the bat with some drives and square cuts, and has looked quite composed. Sometimes recently when we've watched England play, they've looked a bit frenetic, but these two have brought a calmness to the crease. And as you rightly say, there are no gremlins in this pitch. The ball hasn't particularly swung this morning, and both players are looking quite secure.
It was a frantic start, though. England still 177 runs in deficit. And what do you think they'll be looking to do? Get up to parity, I suppose, or keep them in the game? Because batting last, it could get a little bit up and down.
Well, I think both players shouldn't really look too far ahead. They're building a really nice partnership at the moment. They've got a left-hand, right-hand combination, and both of them should be thinking that personally, if they do well, that's good for the team.
Joe Root has become the leading run scorer in tests at Edgbaston in history, and he's also now just 18 runs away from 12,000 in test cricket. Only one other man for England has done that. Alistair Cook, 106 for 5. Root has 42. Stokes has 17.
Thank you both. Sports Extra if you want to listen to commentary of the cricket this afternoon. So we're here in Paris, opening day of the 2024 Olympics, and Team GB has its first medalists of the Games, Yasmin Harper and Scarlett Mew-Jensen. It came in the diving. They won bronze in the women's synchronised 3-metre springboard final. And after the medal ceremony, they spoke to Jonathan Overend.
What was the pressure like delivering your dives today, but also, Scarlett, waiting for everyone else?
Oh my gosh, I haven't competed in a very long time, and for that to be my first event after a while was ridiculous. I was very, very shaky, but I knew I could trust in Yaz, and I knew I had to trust in myself, that I've done the dive so many times. But yeah, I mean, afterwards was also ridiculous. We knew that we needed a really good one, but we couldn't have done any more, so you're sort of stood there helpless. But yeah, I mean, I can't really describe it.
Yasmin, there was an image of shock on your faces when Australia messed up their final dive, which is such a rarity at the highest level, isn't it? What was that moment like, that sort of realisation that you were in, basically?
Well, it's hard to describe because on our last dive, we did everything we could. So we stood there for a few minutes just waiting to see, we knew it was going to be really tight. And when the Australians failed to deliver on their final round, I think we were just in such shock because we kind of just thought that this was going to be a fourth place for us. But then for that to happen and to be coming away with the bronze medal is amazing.
We also PB'd as well,
which
is cool.
Yeah, so. You got a personal best today.
It's an amazing achievement, and hopefully the start of a medal rush for the team. How much confidence do you think is that going to give everyone else who was watching, cheering, knitting away in the stands?
We've got such an incredible team with us here at this Olympics, as well as the last and a few before that. But I think we've definitely got the strongest team here this year, and I've got every faith in all of them to go out there and show what we're all made of, and hopefully bring home some more silverware.
You have a little chink of the Eiffel Tower around your neck, and it's embedded in your bronze medal. Fantastic, well done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yasmin Harper and Scarlett Mew-Jensen after their bronze in the women's synchronised 3-metre springboard final. First female diving medal for 64 years. Britain's first medal on the opening day of the Games since Athens 2004. If you've been listening this morning, you will have heard Lewis Smith yelping alongside Eleanor Oldroyd, which means, Ellie, it's been a good morning for Britain's men in the gymnastics.
Yeah, I think he's allowed to yelp, actually.
Absolutely.
I think. Yeah, we've just been talking, actually, Paul Hall, who is the head coach of men's gymnastics for Team GB, has just been having a chat with Lewis, and I imagine he's a pretty happy man this morning, Lewis.
He's a very happy man, yeah. He's they've had a tough training leading up to this. It's it's no mean feat kind of getting ready for an Olympic Games, so I think to go out there and for the boys to perform the way that they did, yeah, he's very happy.
Yeah, as we keep saying this morning, you can't win anything, but you can mess things up quite badly, and they definitely didn't do that. So leading qualifiers so far in the team competition, succession of good chances of the individual apparatus finals, and for the all-around as well, the individual all-around final, and Max Whitlock crucially through as well on pommel horse. So who's your money on to make finals next week?
Oh, I mean, I think it's safe to say you've got team final and Jake and Joe in the all-around. I think we've got a good chance of making 7 apparatus finals. Ooh. 4 of those, I would say, are dead certs already.
Yeah.
The other
so we're talking about Max on the pommels.
Max on the pommel. You've got
Jake Jarman
on floor.
Yeah.
Harry on rings.
Harry Hepworth. His first Olympics.
And
Joe Fraser on parallel bars, you said. Yeah, the thing though, chappers, is we've got quite a long time to wait, because in this afternoon session, which starts at 2:30 UK time, Japan, China, Ukraine, Max will be keeping a close eye on Rhys McClenaghan, as we all will, the individual Irish competitor who competes on pommel horse and has run Max really closely and beaten him in finals as well in recent years. So a very satisfactory morning indeed for Team GB in the gymnastics, but we'll wait to find out what unfolds this afternoon and then this evening.
And just to explain to people will be joining us all the time, every day during the Olympics, that this works in the sense of this is just about getting through and qualifying today. Scores don't carry over or nothing like that.
Yes, and there's no scores that carry over. This is a one day, one competition, and you qualify. And if you're in the top 8 teams, you qualify for the team final and you start from scratch. Same for the all-around, and then the same for the apparatus finals.
Yeah, top 24 qualify in the all-around, but then only the top 8 qualify in individual apparatus finals. So even though we got some, good scores in the different apparatus this morning for the Team GB guys, it may well be overtaken later on in the day by China, Japan, particularly Ukraine. Would you say, Lewis, any other teams to look out for?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say China and Japan will go above us. But yeah, you've got...
And individually as well with the different gymnasts.
Correct, yeah. So I think we're in good stead with most of the finals that we've predicted. But yeah, I think expect things to change.
Okay, so team final will be on Monday this week, and then the individual apparatus finals start a week today. So a bit of a wait for some of these gymnasts, but hopefully, fingers crossed, team final should be pretty much nailed on for Monday.
Good stuff. Thank you both. More from them a little bit later on. By the way, Ellie, have you recovered from the opening ceremony last night?
Not exactly what it should be today. That was a long... I'm blaming you, actually, Chappers, because we were going to do little kind of updates, little bits and pieces of the highlights of the ceremony, and as soon as Lady Gaga came on, you said, no, I want the whole thing. I want to hear every single note. I want Ali Bruceball to commentate on the Minions. I want you, Ellie, to commentate on a bloke in blue body paint dressed as a meal underneath a kind of silver cloth thing. That was
not better
potentially the
than
low light of my broadcasting career, I think.
That bit of commentary, or just working with me on the opening ceremony?
No, it was an absolute delight working with you and Kelly.
We're going to get Ellie a honey and lemon.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow we'll do a vocal warm-up. We'll go through our scales.
Yeah. Look, I'm sitting next to a man who does panto every year now, Chappers, so he knows all about it. As soon as I came in this morning, so I've got a bit of a rough voice. He said, oh, you need vocal rest. And I said, yeah, that's not happening, is it?
Are you in panto this year, Lewis?
I am.
Where are you?
I cannot tell you because it hasn't been announced yet. But we've done the photo shoot.
Can you tell us which panto? Is it Jack and the Beanstalk?
I'll tell you, I'm playing a Prince Charming in a panto.
Right. Okay.
I thought you were going to run through every panto and have a process of elimination there, Chappers. Is it Mother Goose? Yeah.
To be honest, Ellie, there were gaps in last night's opening ceremony when we were filling where we could have done, best pantos of the year.
Yeah,
we could have done with Lewis.
Do his performance. Where were you? Who were you last year?
I was Abanazar in Aladdin, the baddie.
Of course you were.
Oh, I tell you, you've got a real range in panto there, Lewis, haven't you?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Hey, we got there in the end. Right, we'll talk later. Lewis Smith and Ellen Oldroyd at the gymnastics. We are sitting in our Parisian cafe, or as Bunsey called it last night, our caf. And the rain continues to fall. Steve Cram and Julien Laurent are with us. This is your 11th Summer Olympics.
Yeah, thanks. And they've all been different.
Yeah.
And I think it was actually watching that ceremony last night, and one or two people around us, we were sitting in another calf with a few of the folks and a few of the team here. Yeah, and there was a bit, and a few grumblings back home and stuff. And I said, look, it's French, and so it should be. It's Parisian and French and different, and in the way that I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. Yeah. But that's the point about the Olympics, and if I wound the clock all the way back to going to Moscow in 1980, what did you expect there? So it should be. That's what the Olympics. That's why we take it around the world, is to reflect the country, the city that's hosting it, and it should 100% do that. It shouldn't look like 2012.
No. And I said to you last night, Jules, that it was self-indulgent, but every opening ceremony is self-indulgent, because if you can't be self-indulgent about your city and your country when you're about to host the Olympics, I'm not sure when you can be.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think they wanted that. They wanted that to come across. They wanted a celebration of France and Paris. We said that last night. They wanted a bit of everything, and I think there was everything. I can understand some people not being too keen on Philippe Catherine, the singer who was in that blue. Not sure how Ellie described it last night. That didn't go down well with a lot of people. I can understand that. It was woke at times, they wanted everybody to feel involved, and and we finished by that song from Edith Piaf, sung beautifully by Celine Dion on the Eiffel Tower as well, with the piano, with all the lightning. And at the end, she says, "We unite everybody who love each other," and this is the spirit as well of these Olympic Games.
I mean that ending last night with the torch and with Celine Dion on the Eiffel Tower, it will be.
That's what you'll remember, won't you?
That will be the iconic moment.
And I think that's what, a strong ending. You want to finish well.
Finish on a high.
Exactly. Home straight, the glory run, all of that. Which is great, and look, I thought it was ambitious, really ambitious. The boats on the river and all of that. And it rained, and that made it all a bit of a, some of that probably would have looked a lot better had it not been raining. But nonetheless, it was on an epic scale, and that's what the Olympics are about. So hats off to them. They certainly pulled it off in the sense that it reached a good climax. And after this, I'm actually going to go and have a look and sit and the balloon up. Is it in? I'm not even sure where it is. It's in Jardin des Tuileries.
Jardin des Tuileries. Yeah.
Okay, so
and they've brought it down today, haven't they? Is that because of the weather, or just so people can go and have a look at it?
A bit of both, but I think the weather, the rain especially, and a bit of a wind that was there this morning made it maybe more secure to bring it back down. And then people, you're right, can go now to the Tuileries and have a look at it.
I mean, the other thing, just the final thing on the opening ceremony, which is Steve has mentioned about their bravery of it, and that was the other thing we mentioned at the end last night. They had so many elements within that opening ceremony where if something had gone wrong, I mean, if that horse hadn't worked as it were, but all of those you think, blimey, you've taken a risk there, and you've taken a risk there. So they deserve, all of them who put that together, a glass of wine last night, just for the fact that it went as smoothly as it possibly could have done.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you worked 10 years, but really the last 7 years were the ones where they worked every day on this opening ceremony. It's just incredible. And the weather was the only thing really they could not control outside of technology. Like you said, that horse and that boat under the horse who went through the whole journey all the way to the end, to the Trocadero, if that hadn't worked. But overall, I think they wanted...
Carl Lewis had fallen in, which it looked like a couple of times.
Serena as well.
That was the one bit I was a little bit... France have had some brilliant Olympians, old and more contemporary, but there was a bit of that where I was kind of... we love Carl, and it's great that he's here, coaching one of our Brits and all the rest of it. And Serena was there, and Nadia was there.
Yeah,
great. I mean, great Olympians. And I suppose that was a nod to this is the Olympics. It is international.
Yeah.
And I guess it had a nice French ending. But the French athletes at the end, some of them got Leno Lavillenie got about 4 seconds, didn't he?
That's true.
Just a little bit more on the French athletes. I think that was the only bit at the end that I was a little disappointed in.
Maybe. Yeah, you're right. I think they wanted something ground really, and I think they got that in the end, and for that you have to take risk, and for that you have to be ambitious, and overall I thought it was a great success.
I've been watching a few things this morning. The great thing actually about watching the French television coverage is you get the sports that the French have strength in.
So a lot of judo on this morning.
There's been a lot of judo and a lot of fencing. That's what I've seen a lot of.
It's the two sports that bring us the most medals every 4 years anyway, since the beginning of the games, of the modern games. So the most decorated athletes in French sports history are fencers. Back in 100 years ago, and even more recently. So those two sports, especially when they start the competition in itself, a bit like swimming for the Brits, for example, too, is good because that it's very likely that you will start well. We have judoka already in the semi-finals, so the medal is quite close. We've got the rugby 7 tonight in the semi-final as well. So this is also why we look into it. And the fencers have started pretty well as well.
They had so much judo going on that France 2 had to double box it at one stage. So there were like two of them. It was quite difficult to follow. But what was also great in the stuff that Steve Parry's already said La Défense is the best swimming venue he's ever been to with how that setup is, and that's a temporary venue.
Yeah.
But everything that I've watched this morning has been full and loud and partisan and raucous. It's been everything you would want from an opening morning. I mean, the fencing was probably calm because it has to be, but judo, volleyball, the dive. I mean, it's been immense so far.
I watched the volleyball at 9 a.m.
Germany, Japan,
which was
what
amazing.
A game!
And
what
the atmosphere within that Porte de Versailles hall, which is there, again, it's a temporary one. It's where you have those big exhibition through the year here in Paris, and they've made it into small like stadiums for some of those sports. And I thought exactly the same as you, that it was amazing for a Japan-Germany in a group stage at the start of the games.
But volleyball's big, isn't it? Because the French men are the defending Olympic,
they are,
Olympic champion.
Amazing generation, yeah. So team sports in general, handball, basketball, volleyball and football obviously are very popular sports here, but still for Japan, Germany, it was something.
And that's an aspect of the games that, you know, we've never quite, apart from hockey, you know, from a
British point of view,
team, but the team sports are not, you know, we don't have a volleyball tradition or handball, water polo, or, you know, there's lots of the team events here and when you go back to our kind of success of the British team since lottery funding came in and where the investment went, it was, you know, the discussions that we were having back then about should we try to, and particularly once we won 2012, should we try to invest and create a kind of hotbed. We were sending handball players to Denmark for 4 or 5 years to train, to try and get them up to a level that at least would make them okay at the Olympics type thing, and then could that then be taken on? They are costly programs though, because each of them has lots of players in a squad. And actually the team thing is for us, with the exception of hockey, has been something that we've tended not to really support so much, just because it's not our tradition.
And is that solely on the expense because of how sports are funded now, or is there because it's a
culture as well?
But it's difficult, isn't it? Because you're playing catch up anyhow.
You are.
So you need to be funded.
Yeah.
But then you probably aren't going to succeed for 2 or 3 Olympic Games.
And that's the issue since 2012, because the funding's been cut.
Yeah.
So we're trying, and we've done brilliantly to maintain the level we hit in 2012, 2016, and 2021, and hopefully here, with less money. And so that money's been even more targeted. So the chance to develop those programs with the performance money. Now, there's meant to be development money underneath, and it's up to those sports, obviously. You know, if we want to do better in beach volleyball or handball, and basketball. I mean, the GB basketball program was the one, I think, where we really thought we could.
They had a go at it.
Yeah, we really thought we could advance to a point where the GB basketball team could be, could certainly come to the Olympic Games and do well, and that hasn't quite materialised, and therefore the funding has not been put in place, because we go with the priorities where we think we win medals.
But which on the one hand you can understand, but on the other hand, if you're looking at where you're bringing new audiences and next generation and so on and so forth, then basketball is one of the ones where you would do that.
But then you have the pressure of the new sports that are coming in.
Yeah.
And we have people in some of those new sports who are potential medal contenders, so you have to support that as well. So there's something that, it's handed down from the IOC as to which sports are in. So you have to look at them. Is that an opportunity? Is this new sport that's coming in an opportunity for us to win medals? And if it is, it may well mean that someone else is not going to get what is at the end of the day a finite amount of funding.
Does French sport work in a similar way? By the way, I should just say, Germany, Japan in that volleyball. Japan are the number 2 team in the world, and Germany beat them in 5 sets.
It was incredible.
And every set was, bar the last, I think, was within 2 points. It was an incredible game. Anyhow.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is that the French are starting to copy a little bit the lottery funding that you have in the UK. You've had for a few years. Before that, we had a lot of very good structure, grassroots teams, and structure again in all those collective sports, especially. And l'INSEP, obviously, which is our center of excellence, and we also have like smaller center of excellence all around the country, but l'INSEP was the one where if you were good from anywhere in the country, you would end up there training with the best coaches in the best facilities, etc. l'INSEP is 50 years old now. It's not looking as great as it was 50 years ago, but they're working on that. But they've understood that the lottery funding could be a good way, certainly, of helping some of the sports, not like fencing or judo, who are doing very well naturally in a way almost, because it's in our culture. For many, many years, but for other sports, that it could be a way of making those sports a bit stronger.
We've all got the Aussies to blame, Because
They started.
they were the first. Because you go to the USA, Russia, China. They were the big because they're just big and they can do everything and they've got the population and everything else. Australia were the first nation to punch well above their weight for the size of their population, based on a high performance program which started back in the 70s, and it took us another 15, 20 years to. Lottery funding became a resource that we'd never had before, and then that. And you're right. I think what's happened is, particularly some of the Frances and Germanys and things, have been slow, in my view, to follow what we've done, and have therefore not had the success. I mean, we are still punching, at the Olympics, absolutely, and it's brilliant to see. We will do well here. Not, the French would love to beat us in the medal table, of course they would, but that's not a given. And on home soil for the French, that would be a massive result. But it'd be interesting, really interesting to see what happens going forward now.
That is a target for the French, is it, to beat us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, l'équipe the other day, standard, it's the entente cordiale, but not so cordial in here for the next 2 weeks. But yeah, I mean, because I think Team GB has been in a way an example to follow, not just the funding, but also how you form the new generation or the next generation, what you do in school, for example. I've said to you many times, we don't, in school here, in primary school, we don't do as much sports as you do in the UK. We don't have a football team. You don't play football with your school, for example. So it's a very different mentality. And I think they've looked, the French, and maybe not just the French, but being arrogant as we are, you just usually keep doing what you do, saying like we are doing it the right way and the others are doing it the wrong way. But even us are now looking outside a bit, saying, okay, what are the Brits doing well? What are the Germans doing well? What are the Aussies doing well? That we could maybe try to copy in a way within your own culture and your own mentality, because every mentality is different, every culture is different, every sporting culture is different too. But there's more of that. I think l'INSEP was great, for example. Again, like Clairefontaine for the footballers. Yeah. And a few other countries, like England, have copied Clairefontaine in St. George's Park, for example. But l'INSEP was great 50 years ago. Now, a lot of other countries have had stuff better than l'INSEP.
Did you, just going back to the crowds and what we saw, like, there were all the usual scare stories going into Olympics, so many tickets left unsold, this, that, the other. I know they had problems with the transport yesterday with the attack on the train lines or whatever. When you saw the crowds this morning, as a proud Parisian, did you breathe a sigh of relief that they were full and noisy and
because I guess,
to a good start?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is the thing that you fear the most, is that you don't want people to say, well, nobody showed up in your Olympic Games. And the aim was very much that they wanted these games to be the greatest ever, which everybody says that every 4 years. I understand it. But I think for that, you also need that incredible support from your own people who support the French, but everybody else as well in the Olympic spirit. And also to have people coming from all around the world. And we've seen a lot of tourists and fans from everywhere who are here, especially Americans. We saw a lot of Americans. And to have those crowds there supporting their countries and bringing that special atmosphere.
Makes a massive difference, doesn't it?
It does, but I just while you were talking, I was trying to think back. You began asking me about 11 summer games, and I can tell you that an awful lot of them, morning sessions would be empty in the stadia, and even in the swimming pool and the rest of it. The venues vary. Some have actually quite not big spectator opportunities, and we've become much better. I think the Olympic movement have become much better at selling, particularly the sports that people don't see that often, building sometimes temporary or using, and obviously we've had a lot of new facilities, places where people go, oh, I'd like to go there. I mean, you think about the swimming pool in Beijing even, I mean, there weren't many Brits flying to Beijing to go to the Olympics, but nonetheless, the venues themselves become an attraction as well as the sport. Beach volleyball in Horse Guards Parade, for argument's sake. It's things like that, I think, which they obviously become much better at encouraging people that you like this. You might not know much about it, but it's a good experience, and you'll have a great time coming to watch gymnastics or taekwondo or whatever it might be. So I think that's been probably the last 20 years we've seen a real change there.
When for you do you think it changed with crowds being at morning sessions? Was it Sydney?
Sydney was good. Athens wasn't.
Yeah.
That they had a lot of problems in Athens. They had some I remember the swimming pool was right next to the track. It was an outdoor swimming pool, I seem to remember, which was quite good. There was aspects of that, and there were some bits of Athens which were spectacular. But if my memory of Athens is not big crowds at some of the events. Sydney was good. China, Beijing, there were people there. I'm not sure they'd all bought tickets, but hey.
Well, it's a bit like the Qatar World Cup, isn't it? You're not quite sure where some of the fans came from, or where they bust in, or. But
I think generally speaking, the trend has probably been since Sydney. You could actually go. Atlanta wasn't a hugely enjoyable games. That was the first one. I wasn't an athlete, so I saw it as a slightly different perspective.
And I suppose it also depends on the relative wealth of a country as well, doesn't it? Because I'm reading stories. People are paying €1,500 for a ticket for the opening ceremony.
But this is Paris as well.
Ridiculous.
Yes, when you take it to London, and it comes to Paris, even Rio de Janeiro, there are people who go, it would be great to go. I think there's 500,000 Brits who've got tickets. I heard this morning for these games, which is great. It's accessible, and it's Paris.
Yeah, well, we always get numbers, don't we? There were about 500,000 Scots in Munich, apparently, for that for the opening game of the Euros. Joe Root's got a 50 at Edgbaston. Dan?
He has. He's got it off 68 balls with 4 fours. He's batting quite sumptuously, and he's just 10 runs away now from 12,000 in Test cricket. England 125 for 5. Root unbeaten on 50.
Thank you. Let's go to the tennis here in Paris. Maz Faruqi, who are you watching? What you're watching? Has it stopped raining on the outdoor courts?
It has not. So no play on the outside courts before 2:30 local. But I'm watching Igor Swiatek under the roof here on Philippe Chatrier, not going all the way for the Polish world number 1 in the second set against Romania's Irina Camelia Begu. She has been broken in the second set. So this one looks like it's going perhaps to a decider. But the woman that Swiatek beat on this court to the French Open title in June, she is powering through her second set on long lay. That is Jasmine Paolini. She's 2 games away from victory against another Romania, Anna Bogdan. And of course, after that match, we will then have on long lay Carlos Alcaraz, the Wimbledon champion, who's then going to play doubles on this court with Rafael Nadal later. So busy afternoon ahead.
Thank you very much, Maz. We've got dressage today. We've got the time trials in the road race. The weather will probably play a part with that as well. I would have thought. We've got boxing, we've got canoeing and kayaking, we've got the men's rugby sevens as well. There's no skateboarding today. That's been postponed, hasn't it, because of the weather?
Yeah, and the sun is supposed to come back tomorrow. I know you rolled your eyes earlier when I told you.
This evening, I think.
You see?
Okay. I'm
a weather watcher.
I live in a very warm, sunny city back in the UK. I'm not used to this.
Used to this weather.
I'm
That's
not
what
used to this
Sorry.
weather, Jules.
Sorry.
Come on.
Sorry.
The rugby sevens later. How important is that for the French? So the men are in the semi-finals. So much attention. As one of the faces of the games on Antoine Dupont, because he put aside 15-a-side rugby to focus on the sevens. How important is that for the nation later?
That would be huge. For them to beat South Africa in the semi-final and get to the final, which is also later tonight at the Stade de France. And talking about atmospheres earlier, the Stade de France has been amazing for this Rugby 7 competition so far. Not just for the French, but for everybody else, except maybe when they booed the Argentine anthem. But it has been great, and I think...
But there are reasons.
There are reasons. The rivalry, obviously, and the Football World Cup final in 2022. But for Rugby Union in France, Rugby 15, great, no problem. Rugby League in France, especially in Perpignan, is getting there, good crowds, good coverage, etc. 7 is still very much at the beginning of it. And to go back to the point we were making about some of those sports and fundings, money, exposure, and a status that you want bigger for it, then I think if the Sevens win the gold medal, it would take them. And those players who, some of them play 15, like Dupont, or about to play 15, it would be something very special.
How many faces of the games do you think you have at a rough count? Obviously, you've got Marchand as well.
Marchand for swimming,
and then everybody in
basketball.
judo.
No, Teddy. I guess Teddy Riner, especially after last night. Riner is really the face of judo in France. Wembanyama for basketball, Thierry Henry for football, Dupont for the rugby, and Marchand for swimming. Those are the most recognizable faces, I think, even for French fans. We said before, French love their sport and they love the Olympic Games, but they are not fanatics about sport. We would never take 15,000, 20,000 fans abroad like you in England would do for I don't know, for the cricket, for football, for the rugby, for the Lions, I don't know, anything like that across the world. We don't do that. But the French love their sports, and those people, those faces, and there's a few others that I forgot as well, in the women's side, in the Paralympic side too, that are very recognizable.
What, just winding it out, park the athletics for one moment. When you're at an Olympics, what do you enjoy away from the job side of things? What makes it special for you?
Now, you mean, rather than as an athlete? Well, I've forgotten what it was like to be an athlete. So, yeah. Oddly enough, I was sitting here with the first night I came here. I've obviously part of my job here and your job here is you come here, and I really look forward to seeing everybody. Buncey's sitting here. Yeah. He's so keen he arrives an hour early, but he's coming on the show in a bit. I just love that you're meeting all the folks, all the different members of the team, both radio and television, and just knowing we're at an Olympic Games and that multi-sport feel. We're often people are doing things that they're not used to doing, which produces some interesting conversations. So I love that. I do try, over the years I've tried to go and watch other sports, which I wouldn't normally get to see. I have gone to fencing. Okay. At my very first Olympics working for 5 Live, I went and reported on the fencing. Did you? I've been to boxing, went to watch Amir Khan in Athens, I remember. I reported on beach volleyball for 5 Live once. I've watched Taekwondo, I've been to swimming quite a few times. So I like that. I like the idea that you can, this thing that I've got hanging around my neck, the accreditation, gives you a free pass into go and watch things you wouldn't normally get to see live, and sometimes in some great locations. So that's nice bonus. I have to say though, I just love the whole Olympic vibe, certainly from a broadcasting perspective as well.
We all learn, don't we? Every Olympic Games. And when I say we, I mean those of us that are working on it, those of us that are watching it, those of us that are listening to it. We all learn. But from a professional point of view, and actually from your sport, your loved sport of athletics, I always find that you can go and watch other sports and take little things back to your sport. Whether how it's staged, how people train, how they've got to where there's so many things that you can take and cross over.
Well, if going back to when I had a role in the high performance program, it took a little while, but then you suddenly go, hang on a minute, endurance is in cycling, it's in swimming, it's in triathlon, it's in obviously as an endurance runner, and of course then you think, well, hang on a minute, what are the rowers like? The rowers weren't really using altitude training too much back then, and there's lots of things that we've learnt coming back to our program. We asked the sports to talk to each other, so it's not just from a broadcasting perspective. Of course we pick up lovely little things, but it's like I remember, Buncey might remember this, we struggled with boxing with the high performance program because there wasn't a high performance ethos in boxing. There was amateur boxing, there was professional boxing, and it was really hard to say, look, if you're going to come to the Olympic Games, boxing needs to think differently about how it organises itself and how to ring fence the funding. He's nodding away here. He hasn't got a mic on, so he can't.
Well, Jules, just pass your mic to Bunter because it's pointless. Marcel Marceau was the only thing that wasn't featured in the opening ceremony last night, but he sat there like him at the moment. So go on.
But my point was, Bunty, that your boxing learnt, I think, from other sports around particularly on the amateur side, about what a high performance system might look like.
And we needed to create that cycle so that the guys weren't just turning professional. Saying that, we've lost 10 of the 11 from Tokyo 3 years ago, but it really worked. 2008 to 2012 to 2016, those great success years into 2020. We carried over Olympians, but more than that, because of the funding that was available, and because of that whole high performance ethos, the 17, 18 and 19-year-olds, they were starting to look 5 years in advance, and that had never happened in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. In fact, every medal we ever got, since the war, since 48, I really mean it, every medal we've ever got has been by fluke. It's not been through a massive programme, it's been by absolute fluke. It's one Olympics, one fighter. That was what we did between 68 all the way through to 2004. Just one medal. And that was just a fluke talented fighter. Then suddenly, once that the high performance program kicked in, once people started to say, you know what, I can stay amateur, there's a few quid in it, more than that, there's Olympic glory. Changed it completely, revolutionised it. Made us the last 3 or 4 Olympics, either the top team or the second team.
Were individual sports too protective, or had just nobody thought about talking to each other? Was it like, we don't want to share our secret?
So we could have half an hour on this.
Well,
there were some sports that were protective, 100%, and very, very quickly, UK sport were very smart, and Pete Keane and Liz Nichol and Sue Campbell did a great job of this. When we started to get the real, Athens was a big jump forward, and the programme was starting to bed in. And then Beijing was coming. Then 2005, of course, suddenly, we're going to have the games in London. So what does that mean? So all of a sudden, there was a level of expectation as well. So what else can we do? And the what else can we do was, we need to stop operating in these silos of each sport, because that's what we were doing. And there was a big board up at UK Sport which had a whole host of criteria that each sport was being measured in, and on a traffic light system. Greens, it's going well. Amber, there might be a few issues. Red was, we need to look at this. And I think it was after Athens, or maybe it was after Beijing, we introduced a gold. So instead of green just being, it's all going well, gold, who's doing X really well? And if you are, can you tell why about it?
Yeah.
And that started a completely different way of thinking and operating. But yes, of course, some sports go, why would we do that? Because, again, I'm coming back to...
Because they're competing.
And they're competing for funding.
Yes.
So if you win medals in your sport and another sport doesn't win medals, well, that's good for you, right? Now, so trying to create this, look, folks, we're all in this together. It's all Team GB. We're all going to do well. Of course, when somebody else then sits with you in November and goes, well, I'm really sorry, your sport didn't do as well, so we're going to have to look at... Of course, you then look for any advantage you can get.
Let's talk about the athletics. And I'm going to start with the men's 1500 metres, because it will be one of the highlights of these Olympics. You've got world champion Josh Kerr going head-to-head with the Olympic champion Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Kerr, they both, let's be honest, like to ruffle a few feathers. Kerr includes wearing his blackout glasses amongst his little tricks.
I think that was back in 2022 in Oregon. It was the first time I'd worn the sunglasses, and I chucked them on. I was wearing, I think they were a gold pair, so you couldn't see my eyes. And, I was just looking around and seeing what people were doing, and no one knew where I was looking, so people were getting a little bit peeved off at me and just let me know. They were asking, are you looking at me? And I was like, yeah, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. But, it'll rile some people up. But, yeah, it's a fun element. But, recently I've been kind of wearing ones where you can see where my eyes are looking. But it's, especially on the indoors, it keeps things a bit bright. Because sometimes, in that first year I was wearing some darker pairs that I didn't realise, and racing at night definitely is not a good duo. I think the rivalries for myself and Ingebrigtsen, it just mostly based on our own self-confidence. He's obviously put together some amazing performances over the last 4 or 5 years, and maybe he's definitely beaten me a good handful of times, but I think I'm on that level now. It's taken me a bit longer to get here, but I believe that I'm currently the best 1500 meter runner in the world, and I think he believes he's the best 1500 meter runner in the world. So it's a fun balance between two personalities there, and obviously you're adding in some other amazing competition as well. And I think our personalities clash a little bit when it comes to that. And I'm all for it. I'm not going to shy away from some competition. I've worked extremely hard to be in this position, so I'm excited for what was to come the rest of the year.
How would you describe yourself as a person?
That's a great question. I haven't been asked that in a long time. So, for myself, I think, I'm a very driven individual that doesn't really have much of a filter. It's probably the best way to describe me. So, sometimes things come across in certain ways that, make some headlines that I wasn't supposed to. But, for me, I'm just a driven individual that's looking to see if you can get into the top of your sport without breaking any rules.
When you look at the colour of that medal, what do you think about that?
It's a yawn fest now, you see. It's a bad colour, that one. And, again, look, I don't really sit around and look at my medals, but that one needs to be changed. The goal of being an Olympic champion is an addiction. Emotions are going to be extremely high in Paris. The storylines in the media is going to be crazy. I know I can handle the pressure. I am the best in the world, and I visualise that 1500 metre final. I know exactly what I'm going to be doing. There's 12 individuals on that Paris start line, and I'm going to do my best to try and beat every single one of them. If I have to look at any other colour than gold over the next 4 years, it's going to be really frustrating.
Josh Kerr there on the men's 1500 metres. In the next hour, by the way, we've got some live sport for you. We'll be with our 3-day eventing team. We'll also build up to the time trials in the road races, so we'll do that in the next hour as well. Do you like all the talk between Kerr and Ingebrigtsen?
Yeah, it's a bit like going back to our day a little bit, I was kind of piggy in the middle. But
you were, weren't you?
Yeah, Kono Vet was, and the media love rivalries. Of course they do. We all do. Yeah. Because it brings attention, and as long as the people who are doing it, and they both handle it really well, they're both capable of playing the game. I think when it's all bit one side and the other person doesn't really want to engage, then it doesn't look so good. But the pair of them are perfectly happy, trashing the other one a little bit. And I like both of them, actually. Jacob gets a lot of people don't like him. He's been brilliant for our sport.
Yeah.
He's been absolutely brilliant for our sport in lots of facets. Mind you, the song he's just brought out with these brothers, I'll put that to one side. That's not great for our sport. But so apart from that stuff, and of course we had Jake and Josh come along, two Brits who took it to him in a way that others haven't. And that's what happens in someone's career. He became very good, became dominant. Everyone tends to let, and then somebody goes, oh, hang on a minute, and that's where he's at right now. So it's made him go away and be better. I mean, I saw him, following the Diamond Leagues just recently. He's had a tough winter, and I think for a long time we were all thinking Josh is in a great place here. Josh had a great winter, great indoor season, world records, world indoor titles, and outdoors. He's been very smart, Josh, in how he's prepared. Whereas Jacob's had to play catch up, but goodness me, is he caught up. And that's going to be, so it's going to be a great clash.
For a game like this, when you were competing, does what happened in the past, in the last month or 2 months or 3 months, matter? Or it doesn't matter so much psychologically, technically, physically?
Yeah, it matters. Athletics, and people have been asking me, actually, because I've just been at 3 Diamond Leagues, including here in Paris 2 weeks ago. So we had Paris, Monaco, London, and we had world records, and we had the world's best athletes going bang, bang,
quite
bang.
A good trio, that, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
and not surprised you did the last 3.
Good life, that, yeah.
But my point is, for a lot of sports, you don't see people, but for athletics, the last 3-4 weeks, your last 2-3 races, Josh has decided to prepare a bit different marathon runners, the event, but they compete right up until the games. And so it is important. On the other hand, in this particular scenario, at the end of Josh's comments, he said, I know exactly what I'm going to do. The reason why he knows exactly what he's going to do is he knows exactly what Jacob's going to do. And that makes it easier for the others. So the onus is on him, because in those races, in those great races, he's got pacemakers, he's got wave lights, and he can run away from everybody. At the Olympics, at the World Championships, particularly recently, he's not quite been able to do that. So the big question for me is, can he run away from Josh and the others or not? Yeah. Josh doesn't think so, and so when Josh says, I know what I'm going to do, you're not going to see Josh hit the front with 600 to go, let's put it that way. So it's easier for Josh to have a strategy, because his strategy is determined by what Jacob does. And Jacob doesn't have really, he'll hate me saying this, but he knows the truth. He really doesn't have another strategy.
So when they're doing all this talk beforehand, and one of them only has one strategy, and they're on that start line, it's put eyeballs on this race. But actually, as regards those two men on that start line, is it going to make any difference to either of them mentally, all the sort of fun and games that we're having in the build-up? Do you think?
I think it does. I mean, the 1500. The joy of the 1500. It's 3.5 minutes, and it can be a jog. In my, I won one title where we ran the first 2 laps in such a jog it was ridiculous. And it's all on the last lap. And if you remember, Matt Centrovitz of the USA won the gold medal in 2016 in one of the slowest ever finds. Like a 49.50 last lap. Yeah. We're not going to see that. So when it's that type of race, the nerves get going, and so when you're standing on the start line, everybody's like, oh, who's good? This is different. They almost know it's kind of going to become a time trial at some point. And so I think it's easier for everybody. Jacob knows what he has to do, but the others know what's going to happen. So I think there's almost less nerves for that than there is when you're just not sure, and in your head you might have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. How do I react? So the great test, I guess, of any Olympic sport normally is if you were able to go out and so this is a pure test of who is the best. The trouble is in 1500 metre runners, it wasn't always who's the fastest. This is going to be about that.
Did you, just going back to your day, did you enjoy being piggy in the middle? I mean, I know there were races and medals on the line, but you could have had a lot of fun with that, just on the start.
Do you know, I struggled.
Going up to Steve, I can't believe what Seb said about you last week. Seb,
just doing it up. That's what
I do.
When I was in Moscow, which was my first one, that's exactly what it was like. And I was learning. I was 19, and I was, I remember getting in the lift at the village, and everyone had cleared out. The 1500 used to be on the last day, and we because of the boycott and everything, the government didn't want us to be there. We'd gone in late, and people had left, so there was hardly any British athletes left. And I hadn't seen much of Seb, and I'd been hanging around Ovette learning a lot from him. Got in the lift with Steve and his coach Harry Wilson, who was also the British team coach, and we went down one floor, and the lift doors opened, and in got Seb and his dad, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be
good."
And do you remember the Waltons? Yes. At the end of the Waltons, there was a TV show on BBC Two all those years ago, and the lights were going all your ears. Good night, John Boy. Good night, Mary Lou. Good night. So what happened was, it was all. I said hello to Seb's dad. I had said hello to Seb. I said hello to Harry. Said hello. Everyone went hello, 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 except those two. They never said a word to each other, and it was. But you often did feel, and then you get to the stadium, and you're like, Seb goes off over that end of the field, and Steve goes off, and I was like, well, who shall I go and sit with? I'm the third British guy. I don't know. I'll go and sit in the middle somewhere. I did learn a lot, and to be honest, though, what you do is you find your way.
Yeah.
Because learning to deal with the media in particular is tough. And Ovette did it a completely different way to Seb. And what you do is you kind of go, do I want to be like Seb? Do I want to be? You don't. You end up going, nah. This is how I'm going to handle it. And so I had good teachers, put it that way.
Been brilliant to have you for an hour. Where are you going this afternoon?
I'm going to go and see if Andrew Cotter survived the opening ceremony, and have a coffee with him. And then I'm going to go and watch the cycling time trial.
Good stuff.
Maybe some basketball later.
Nice. Brilliant. All right, have a good day, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Jules, what's your plan?
My plan is the rugby. I'm staying for a little bit more.
Oh, are you? Okay, no, that's fine.
And then rugby 7.
You can tell me later then. Sorry, all right. No, go on. No, so you're going to the rugby 7?
Yeah, rugby 7. Yeah, later. I won't make the semi-final, but if the French qualify for the final, I'll be there tonight.
Okay, great. So Jules is staying with us, which we've all just found out, which is great. Thank you, Steve. Steve Bunce will join us as well in a little while. Let's go back to the cricket. Are you at lunch, Dan Northcross?
We are. Lunch has just started. 157 for 5. England, that represents a massive recovery. They were 54 for 5 after 2 early wickets inside the first, 23 balls of the morning. First, Ollie Pope dragging one on off Shamar Joseph, and then Harry Brook getting a thin edge through to the keeper. He went for 2. Pope made 10 at 54 for 5. England win all sorts of bother, still 228 runs behind the West Indies, but the partnership between Root and Stokes has now yielded 103 runs. Root has 58 at lunch, Stokes 48. Mark Ramprakash alongside me. We may look back on that session and say that the key moment was when Jayden Seales, he had Root LBW. It wasn't given by the umpire, and West Indies didn't refer it. It was shown to be hitting.
Yeah, I mean, of course, up here in the commentary box, you get a very good view of it. I think perhaps if Seales had been a more senior bowler, or maybe he needed a bit of Stuart Broad in him to push and be confident for a review. But that was pivotal, because Joe Root has gone about his business in ominous fashion. He's in form. He got 100 at Trent Bridge, and he's looked to continue that today. He's rotated the strike really well. He's looked well balanced. He's looked very in control. He's shown a lot of composure. Joe Root at his best, actually. And when he's out there, you feel England, everything looks calm, and England looking forward. Of course, Pope and Brook got out to some iffy shots, really, it has to be said. The ball wasn't really there to hit, with Pope chopping on and Brook playing a sort of an airy drive. But Stokes, the captain, has come in and by his standards has looked pretty composed. He's shown some good defence. Interesting battle with Moti, the left-arm spinner, finding some turn from outside. The left-handers off stump. And Ben Stokes, feeling for a couple and then hoiking him into the Hollis stand for 6. So that will be a good battle, I think, after lunch.
He's got 48 off 62. This isn't like crash bang wallop Bazball, but you've got to point out 119 runs in 25 overs. I mean, England are still going on at a very positive lick.
And I think this is the whole thing with batting positively. You know, for 150 years, good players have come out and played Test cricket and batted positively. But it's about what ball to hit and what ball to block. Joe Root is a class act, and he was number one in the world before Baz Ball, and what he does really well is play the ball late. He knocks it into gaps, he hits the ball along the ground most of the time, and he makes his runs. So look, each player's got to go out there and play to their strengths, but I think England will look back at, well, I think they should look back at some of the dismissals in this innings and feel if the batters are being honest with themselves, the ball was not there to play an attacking shot.
Game beautifully poised at lunch, 157 for 5. England still 125 runs behind, and Root just 2 runs away from 12,000 in Test cricket. But at lunch, 157 for 5, England.
Thank you very much, both of you. Back to the tennis, Maz.
And Poland's world number one Igor Świątek, who remember was broken in the second set of this first round match here on Philippe Chatrier. She's power back to beat Arina Camelia Begu of Romania in straight sets, 6-2, 7-5. Italy's Jasmine Paolini knocking out another Romanian player over on long lay. She's beaten Anna Bogdan in straight sets. Next up on both show courts then, we switch to the men's singles here on Chatrier. Shortly we're going to see Novak Djokovic chasing the one title that's eluded him in his career. Carlos Alcaraz will get his singles campaign underway shortly over on long lay before he then plays in the doubles for Spain here in the evening session alongside Rafa Nadal. But the 4 Brits due to play in the singles draw today continue to wait because of the poor weather. No play now on the outside courts before 3 p.m. local time.
Are the crowds good on the 2 show courts?
Yeah, really good. I'm sorry, I've got half my cans on and half off because the compare's doing very French things on the court here, talking about accordions and all kinds of things, so it's a bit difficult to hear you. But no, the crowds have been really good, and obviously, you know, the draw of Igor Świątek looking so comfortable, she always does, and it is a real fan favourite here anyway, so I think it was pretty easy sell really. But it has been a pretty well attended, and obviously people going out now, but I'm sure they'll all come back in to see Novak Djokovic shortly. Okay, enjoy your compare. I told you, Jules, before, there are a lot of French people doing French things at this French Olympics. It's very annoying.
Very annoying.
You know, your countries last night at the opening ceremony coming in order of how they're said in French. I mean, what's the world coming to?
We just have 2 weeks where we can be so French, super French.
Right, it's 5 Live. We're at the Olympics opening day here in Paris. Let's get the latest news. Here's Dina Campbell.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
And in the rest of today's news, the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza says at least 30 people have been killed and more than 100 injured in an Israeli strike on a school housing displaced Palestinians. Israel's military says the target was a Hamas command and control centre inside the building. The Chancellor could delay some new road and hospital projects in an attempt to fill what the government is calling a black hole in the public finances. In a speech on Monday, Rachel Reeves is expected to say she inherited unfunded schemes from the previous government. The French railway network says about 70% of services will run during the day on 3 high-speed lines damaged in sabotage attacks yesterday. Officials in Paris say engineers worked through the night in the rain to carry out repairs. Things are expected to get back to normal by Monday. 4 members of the same family from the American gospel group The Nealons have died in a plane crash. They were on the way to a concert in Alaska when the aircraft went down. 7 people were killed in total, including the pilot.
He is Brian Cox. Hello. And he understands science. I'm Robin Ince, and I don't understand it quite so much. Could it tell us something about the nature of matter?
No.
OK, good.
Together, we'll be joined by a collection of expert and non-expert guests.
What's going on? Don't worry. Taking a look at some of the most wonderful things in the scientific world.
Science with funny bits. The Infinite Monkey Cage on Radio 4 and BBC Sounds.
Paris 2024, the Olympic Games.
With Mark Chapman.
On BBC Radio 5 Live.
Welcome to a very wet Paris this Saturday afternoon, 8 minutes past 2 here in the French capital. The rain continues to fall, but if you're just joining us, Britain have their first medal of the game. So the first time since Athens in 2004 that Britain have taken a medal on the opening day, and it came in the women's synchro 3-metre springboard. Yasmin Harper and Scarlett Mew-Jensen winning that one. There may be more medal opportunities later in the time trial, in the road race. We will bring you those, both the men's and the women's, and that there are 91 competitors in both the men's and the women's. It's exactly the same course, it's exactly the same distance. That's the first time, Julian Laurent is nodding next to me, first time that's ever happened. That is absolute equality on it. Number of competitors, length, course, everything's the same.
Yeah, everything is the same. They really wanted that to happen here, and we talked a lot about parity yesterday during the opening ceremony too. The first time where you've got full parity between the men and women's athletes in these games.
We've had also today, by the way, I was just going to finish what's coming up. We've got 3-day eventing. It's the dressage stage, so we'll go to Sonia McLaughlin in Versailles very shortly to talk about that. We've got some boxing later. We've got canoeing and kayaking. We'll look ahead to the men's rugby sevens, which is at the semi-final stage. Overall today, 14 gold medals are up for grabs, and later on in the pool we have that women's 400 metre free final, which is set to be one of the races of the games, if not the race of the games, between Ledecky and Titmus and McIntosh, who between them have the fastest 10 times in the world at that distance. It feels those games where, Steve Bunce, we used to wait for ages for a first medal from a British perspective seem long gone.
We talked about that. In fact, I was in this studio cafe yesterday, and we talked about how the game started. The event started on Wednesday. Really serious events on Thursday. The Fijians and the French in the sevens, in front of 80,000. I mean, that's ridiculous. 48 hours before. And you're absolutely right, Mark. Over a 16-day period, there were a couple of things you're looking forward to. You just spoke there about the 1,500 metres to Crammy. I mean, that's a must-see. And then you're talking here about some of the women's swimming and some of the other races there. And no doubt tomorrow we'll talk about another race that's going to be the highlight of the Olympics. But to have races like that 12 hours after the first bell, so to speak, 12 hours after the first gun, is ridiculous, Chappers. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I love swimming. One of the things I love about swimming, because I was briefly, as you know, the Observer swimming correspondent.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. There's several things I've been in my time. And the one thing I love about it is when you go to the swimming at the Olympics, it's one of the few places where they still deliver paper. You get those unbelievable stats. So that's how you've got that stat about the 3 women have got the 10 fastest times in the world. And they are updating it daily. It's absolutely fantastic.
The big race tomorrow will be the men's 100-metre breaststroke, which will be hopefully PT. He's through to the semi-finals in that. Yeah, I always think, can you imagine the Observer Sport department having that meeting and thinking who would be best to be swimming for it?
Who's got his hand up? Bensi.
Me sir.
Just one more on the opening ceremony. We've done a lot with Jules on the opening ceremony, but we were talking about it, and you got really emotional during the Celine Dion rendition of an
There was
Edith
Johnny
Piaf
Halliday
song.
before as well.
Yeah, listen,
your Johnny Halliday moment was good.
The Johnny Halliday stuff was great. So we're having a good laugh with Johnny Halliday. That's absolutely perfectly fine. Okay, but something happened with the Celine Dion. Yeah, sorry, I always say in my house she was always with my kids growing up silly on Dillion. I mean, I think I only said it once on air last night, and I've said it this morning, which is a little bit remiss of me. It's not a slight. It's just a nickname that worked in my house. Silly on Dillion. Hey, who knows? You see, I mean, I got asked this morning in a message from my daughter, did you see Silly on Dillion last night? And of course I did. It's neither here nor there. So I was looking at the Piaf song, and I've been talking about. I've got some Piaf on my phone, and I love Edith Piaf. She's terrific. She's fun, and her songs last about 1 minute and 7 seconds. You've got 6 60 and it lasts 72 minutes, you know, the kind of thing. But I love the songs, and I knew the song, but I didn't know much about the song, but I knew it. And I knew it had some real meaning. And then I remembered I'd written about it 10 years ago. And I'll tell you why I'd written about it. It's because she wrote it in honour of the man she fell madly in love with the previous year. She fell in love with Marcel Cerdan, who at the time was just a French middleweight, but he was about to become the world champion. He wins the world title, and in 1949, when they were madly in love, he ends up losing the world title to Jake LaMotta, the Raging Bull, and he's going to go and have a rematch with LaMotta, but he's got to see Piaf, so he flies back from New York. There's a pit stop in the Azores, and he crashes and dies in a plane. She writes the song, and she never fully recovers. That's documented. Yeah. And then the words. Don't get me started, Jack. The words are absolutely unbelievable. My French, I don't speak French. You know I don't speak French. I don't even do accents. And I knew it. And then I got sent a reminder this morning by someone on Twitter, and I went, oh, yeah, so I did. Yeah. And then I went back and, I tell you, I struggled to read it. So that's why I was in such a state in the room, which is why you had to lean across and touch and pat my leg after we'd done 5 hours on air. Because the song, if you're a boxing person, have a little look. Edith Piaf, Marcel Cerdan, have a look at that song. And if you can read that, the translated lyrics, and not do that, you're an animal.
So you've got the power of the song, the power of the lyrics, and then the power of everything that Celine Dion has been through as well. But then in this haunting, I mean, it was hauntingly set, wasn't it? You know, with her one light on the Eiffel Tower, but also then the balloon and the torch. I mean, it was goosebumps.
Those 5 minutes, really, roughly, between Perec and Riner lighting up the cauldron and Celine Dion, was just because we knew she would sing. Yeah. We kind of knew it was going to be L'Hymne à l'amour because it's one of the most famous French songs, and it's Piaf, who was born here and lived all her life here, plus the Cerdan thing, everything. But we didn't know when she would sing it, where she would sing it, how, all of that. And she's the most non-French singer, French really, and for her, after 4 years without singing, to be there on the first floor of the Eiffel Tower with the piano and the lighting show, it was just amazing.
And they were sort of the first celebrity couple.
They were, Cerdan and Piaf, of course. They were like the, David Beckham and Victoria Beckham, if you want, of their time in the late 40s.
They had tabloid journalists following them around on planes. So if they went somewhere, the tabloid journalists were there. He'd have 50, 60 people outside his gym in New York or outside his gym on the outskirts of Paris when he was training. This is stuff that, that's absolute Beckham and Spice Girl stuff. Absolutely, chappers.
There are so many things in that 5 or 6 minutes, but the majority of people will take Silly on Dilly on out of that. 5 Live Sport, 1:15 in the afternoon in the UK, 2:15 here in France. Steve Buss and Julien Laurent with us. Let's go to Versailles. Nicola Wilson, silver medalist in team eventing at London 2012, joins us. We're in the middle of the dressage at the moment, aren't we, as part of the eventing? For people who haven't been listening earlier, Nicola, just explain how this all comes together and works.
Today we've got the first phase, the dressage phase of the competition. As has been said before, this 3-day eventing is a little bit like triathlon for horses, and we're halfway through the second rotation of the teams. So the first riders within the teams of 3 have already done their dressage, and as you said, we've got Laura Collett. She is the second rider out for Britain. Tom McEwen leading on JL Dublin, so Britain starting fantastically well, and Laura Collett certainly got all of her eyes on her. She and this combination, horse and rider, London 52, were at Tokyo where they won team gold, so high expectations for her.
So they have 3 in a team, don't they? And how do they make their own decisions about who leads them off? Is it done via a draw? Because Tom McEwen had a good games, didn't he, in Tokyo? You mentioned the team gold. He got an individual silver as well. So have they basically gone, right, we'll lead you off because of previous success?
It's looking at the team as a whole and seeing where their strengths are. All 3 riders are strong in all 3 phases, to be honest, which is a luxury, which is fantastic. And it's up to Chef to keep and trainer Chris Bartle to decide what is the running order and what they want to achieve. They want to go out and in the first phase, the dressage, and have and develop confidence, have confidence within the team, really stamp down a solid performance, which Tom has done in bucket loads, before then the other two riders come. And the same with the cross country tomorrow. They're wanting a solid, confident cross country round, clear inside the time to really set the tone and the confidence for their remaining two riders, and coming back with information about how the course is riding and any little hidden gems that that they need to be aware of, really.
And just one more before we come on to Laura Collett and talk about her. Just one more on Tom McHugh, who is on a different horse here to the one that he was on in Tokyo.
Yes, he is. He was riding today to Takasa in the at Tokyo, where he won team gold and individual silver, as you said. But here he's riding a horse called JL Dublin, who actually is a horse that I got as a 4-year-old and produced through the levels. I trained him for 7 years, and he was individual and team gold at the European Championships a couple of years. But since I had an awful fall and been forced to retire, Tom has fantastically successfully taken over the ride of JL Dublin and is realising the dreams of him and his team of getting to the Paris Olympics, and it's really exciting.
When you get a horse at 4, do you know immediately that it's going to be able to deliver for you? What I mean, obviously you then have to put the work in with it, but what are you looking for in a 4-year-old horse that thinks this could be an eventing horse?
Well, it's a partnership. It's a team. So the horse and rider really need to build on that bond, that trust, that harmony and partnership. And as a 4-year-old, Dublin had ability. He had so much ability, but they've also got to be trainable and have that mentality. He's always been a showman. He'd get out of bed or in his stable, or get out of bed on a morning and go, "Oh, there isn't a camera. Where are the public?" And then he would be like, "I can't really be bothered." And
I work with a few people like that. I tell you, Nicola, I could give you a few football pundits I know like that.
And then he'd be like, my adoring public, fantastic. And instead of getting too tense about it, he's like, right, I'm going to knuckle down and show you what I'm made of, which is such a lovely, lovely quality. You're seeing a lot of horses today in the dressage get that little bit tense, whereas you saw Dublin really grow into himself and go, well, look at me, guys. He's a show-off, basically. But he always had the ability. Obviously, he knew nothing as a 4-year-old, and he has to go like children through their education. They have got to go through their years of training and education and development, both physically and mentally, to get to this top level of being able to cope with the pressures that every athlete are under. You've just got 2 athletes here. You've got the horse and the rider that every single Olympic athlete will be feeling at Paris this next couple of weeks.
So this British team defending the team gold. Laura Collett, who goes very short, she goes just shy of 1:30 in the UK. She missed out on an individual medal in Tokyo. Here she is.
3 years to reflect on what could have been and what should have been in Tokyo, and now I've got the opportunity to put things right, so full steam ahead.
Yeah, I mean, a team medal, a gold in the team is no mean feat. What is it about the individual that you feel that just sort of got away from you?
Obviously winning the team medal was amazing, and fingers crossed we can do the same thing again. It's a seriously strong team going there, as it was going to Tokyo, so it's very much a team comes first, but on the back of that is it's just on a more personal level. If you can win an individual medal, then that's just you and your horse, and you're not relying on your teammates to pick up a medal with you, we're very lucky that we get the opportunity to potentially win 2 medals.
So that's Laura Collett. I mean, Nicola, they're in her and her horse, London 52. They are in good. I don't know if this is the correct term,
Yeah.
but they're in good form, and they won badminton with a record score.
Yep, they are in fantastic form. She has won so many 3 5-stars, which is incredible, and an amazing partnership that she's developed over years, again since a 4-year-old. But just at the championships, there's just been a couple of little mistakes that have held her off that individual podium as well as the team, which she's just said to. But she's learnt so much, and they are definitely up there amongst the absolute favourites, and let's hope that it can come right for her this year.
Let's bring in Sonia, who's alongside Nicola. Afternoon, Sonia.
Hello,
did you have
chappers.
to nip off and get a fresh poncho?
No,
Or are you still sat in that puddle?
I am still sat in a puddle, and there is a very large piece of plastic covering the broadcast equipment, and I'm sat under that like I'm a small child practicing doing camping in the back garden. Yeah, it's a very cold day, but I have to say these beautiful event horses who are doing this dressage are lifting the spirits, because they still look stunning out here with their beautifully plaited manes and tails, and the riders looking terribly elegant in their black jackets. So there's still much to say.
What difference not for Sonia's broadcasting, Nicola, but for the horses and the riders, what difference does the weather make here for the dressage?
Well, they have to train in all weather, train and compete in all weather conditions. So, we generally don't sort of hide away from the bad weather. It's something you just have to learn to deal with. And the horses are so well trained at this level, and they're so engaged and confident that you'll see the top horses perhaps won't even notice that what the weather's doing. And that's the level of training that they've got to. But you see the horses here, their ears are pricked, and then when you see the ears just one ear just flicking backwards and forwards again, that's almost like a communication between horse and rider, and the horse is really listening to what the rider's asking them to do, the next movement and preparation, and it's lovely to see.
It was quite funny, chappers. I was talking to Tina Cook earlier, who was alongside Nicola, silver medalist at London 2012, and she's saying when she did her dressage test for the eventing, literally almost a hurricane blew through. She said her top hat blew off, the top of the judges' box blew off, and they didn't put a stop to the event, so she literally had to carry on, come what may, in the most extreme conditions. And just shows how well these horses are schooled, because that combination alongside Nicola and others went on to take the silver medal.
Nicola, I mean, we've done this many times, so there are some stupid questions coming. But so what are you saying to the horse when its ear flicks back and stuff and is listening to you? What kind of instructions do you say?
So over years, you sort of put your buttons in. It's a little bit like your gears or your controls, and you're through training and using the correct scales of training, that it's a very common that every horse and rider understands on how to ask the horses and train the horses to do these movements. And it's just that sinking in when two individuals, horse and rider, become one, and they're really working together in harmony. So although no words come out of the rider's mouth or the horse, it's just that constant feel and sense between horse and rider, and the ears is where you sort of generally do see it. That little bit of communication. Yes, I know what you want. That's great, brilliant. Ears pricked, concentrating, and looking where they're going. It's lovely.
And just on back to those conditions, if the sand gets wetter and heavier, that doesn't affect things.
No, the surface here is fantastic. Crikey, it's top class, beautiful, and it should ride the same for everybody, for the dressage and the show jumping. If it does get very dry, they will water it in between when they get a break if they need to keep it very consistent. But these are outstanding, amazing conditions. For the horses, and the top horses won't notice the weather. Some may well notice the brollies or the cheering or the stamping of the crowd, with their feet. Those kind of things can upset them. But here we have Laura Culloch coming into the arena, and I have to say my tummy's starting to feel a little bit nervous, Sonia.
Do the two of you take it away then? If she's come into the arena, away you go.
She's got a lovely smile on her face. They look picture of elegance.
And I'm looking at this rectangular arena, which is all the way around. It's 20 metres by 60. It has a small picket fence at sort of ankle level all the way around. And then we have these very familiar dressage markers away to my right. That's A, where the horse and rider will enter. The opposite end, effectively going straight up the centre line, is a marker C, right in front of the three judges. Three judges sitting at C. Look like they are kind of in beach huts, and they've got the perfect view of this dressage test. And Laura Collette, who was part of the gold medal winning team at Tokyo 2020, finished 9th as an individual, has just cantered down the centre line and has now just gone into a sitting trot as she heads towards C, which is that marker right in front of the judges. And she turns right, still here at sitting trot. And as she takes a letter marker M, and she's now doing an extended canter.
Extended
trot, excuse me, straight across the arena. Just give us your early impressions of how Laura is looking.
Well, the judges are looking at the overall impression. They're looking at the suppleness, the accuracy, and that entry in canter and the transition forward to trot and continuing down the centre line, as you said, Sonia, to see was so straight. And a beautiful soft bend through the corner and into such an elegant extended trot. And she, at the moment, looking at the split scores, you know, she's just slightly popping her nose ahead of Tom McEwen.
And she's at C, where we talked about Tom McEwen's test, where they do that rein back, which is when the horse just takes a few strides backwards. Not very many. What did you make of that?
Yes, they were very accurate in their halt as she moved forward into the half pass, and that is a forward movement, but the horses are going sideways and forward and having a crossing of their legs. And again, the judge looking for the softness, the suppleness, the balance and the engagement, and just seeing every movement flowing from one to the other. He just looks so happy and confident in his work.
And he's now just doing a relaxed walk straight across the diagonal. This is London 52, who she also rode in Tokyo. Remember, she said she made mistakes with this horse ahead of the Tokyo game. She tried to wrap him in cotton wool. Wasn't a good idea, so that when he came out to compete in Tokyo, he basically was too hot, came out of like a cannon, shot out of a cannon. And she's now built this horse up for these games in a very different fashion to try and get the best out of him. He's a bay gelding. He looks like that lovely conker colour that you get in the autumn, as she asks at C just to go into the canter. And now she's doing the flying changes, Nicola, which always look impressive. Just explain to people what a flying change is as she does that across the diagonal in this arena.
Yeah, a flying change is a horse going from one canter lead to the other canter lead without a transition, say, through to trot or to walk. And because it's on the diagonal line, it's very clear to the judges whether the horse stays straight. They're wanting to make sure that the horse doesn't swing his quarters and is very correct. They're wanting to see a nice lift through those flying changes and an expression, but also without breaking the rhythm. And Laura's absolutely nailed all four of those changes, all in different places, but they really were lovely.
And then we just had an extended canter down the long line, farthest away from me as I'm looking at it, and she's now come round to the halt, and she, Laura Collette, punches the air. London 52 has got his ears pricked, and she looks highly delighted with that test. Do you think she has every right to be delighted, Nicola?
Absolutely. From the moment he came into the arena, he oozed confidence, he oozed quality, and their level of training and delivering of the test was just magic. Absolutely superb. She deserves the brilliant mark that she's clearly going to get, and a fantastic number 2 in the Team GB. Well done.
Yeah. So Team B, and there she goes. And Tom McEwen is probably sitting somewhere going, oh, darn you, Laura Collette, because he's been leading since he was the 9th horse into the arena and has set the standard. And old Laura Collette, his teammate, has come along and gone, anything you can do, I can do better. She has gone into the lead, and I cannot put into words the score that Laura Collette has just nailed here at the very, very highest, 17.5 0. We are talking nearly dressage perfection, Nicola.
Absolutely, and actually this horse is being trained to perfection, and that test was superb, absolutely fabulous. She's dreamt of this, but being able to dream it and know that you can do it, and then to be able to deliver it under these circumstances and this pressure is something else. But absolutely fabulous.
And you know what that then means, Mark? Chappers, it means that as you look at the scoreboard, it's 2 Union flags in first and second place for the British eventers after they've both done rounds of dressage for Tom McEwen and Laura Collette.
But that's the good thing, isn't it, Nicola? That obviously that works from a team perspective, but they're all going to push each other.
Absolutely. All 3 of the British riders could be on that podium. They are all good enough and have got good enough form to be not only at the top of the podium for the team goal, but also all 3 individual slots as well. But what also comes with that sort of almost expectation is that pressure of then having to deliver, and they have to try and take themselves away from what they know they can do, and the expectation that we all have on them, and just imagine that this is just another competition that they need to do so well in, and put into practice everything they've been training on for years, and it's just so exciting.
Chappers, can I put something into context here? Mm-hmm. Only 2 British riders in the history of the Olympics have ever won the individual gold, and that was the very well-known Richard Meade way back in 1972 in Munich, and then Leslie Law in Athens in 2004. And in a sport where men and women compete on equal terms, no woman for Britain has ever won the individual gold medal in the eventing. And we have in Laura Collette and Ros Cantor, who we haven't actually seen yet, she goes last of the team, is currently the world number 1. We have a realistic chance of one of the women in this team making history.
And Tonya also also making history. I think that was an Olympic record dressage mark as well.
Wow.
And the final thing is Ros Cantor has a point to prove because she was travelling reserve, doesn't she? But she herself has said that. It was painful a bit, was Tokyo, because she was there but not there, if you see what I mean.
But does that not make stronger? It was so hard for her, but she was there in a very different role, as Yaz is doing now, and it's just, yes, she's had a few years to work on her performance and her training, and she certainly comes here full of confidence and strength, and she knows what she needs to do, and she's such an amazing competitor, so level-headed, so focused, and leaves no stone left unturned in her training and preparation for any of these top-level competitions that she's doing, and her horses.
So we'll be back with you for Ros Cantor. What time's that, Sonia, roughly?
Ros Cantor, no, it's 17:21 French time. So yeah,
French
20 past
time,
4. 20 past 4 with you guys.
Okay, thank you both, Sonia McLaughlin and Nicola as well. And we will be back for the next event with Ros, as I say, 20 past 5 French time, 20 past 4 UK time with Sonia and Nicola. Jules, thank you very much for being with us. So off to the Stade de France now?
Yes, tonight, hopefully, fingers crossed, they make it to the final.
Okay. We will let you go. We will talk to you soon. Julien Laurent, Steve Bunce staying with us, and the road racing is underway. We've got the time trials today, both men and women. Jonathan Overend and Hayley Simmons, British racing cyclist across this. Do you want to set the scene for us, Jonathan? Because it is wet and miserable out there.
It's really wet. Well, I left the diving centre up in Saint-Denis, Mark. Long walk to the metro, joined the masses who were heading out the other way to the Stade de France, and then into the city centre. And actually it wasn't too bad out there in Saint-Denis, but getting into the city centre, absolutely hosing it down. And just like at the opening ceremony last night, very, very difficult conditions. Now, of course, for these cyclists, it makes it all the more hazardous because this is a competition on the Paris roads. It's a really unique route. It's 32.4 kilometres, and the time trial is against the clock. So everyone goes off at 90-second intervals. We've just just started the women's time trial, and it's Anna Henderson for Great Britain, who we'll be seeing in a little bit. But really hazardous conditions. These, of course, are super high-spec bikes with very narrow wheels and tyres. So they're going to be sliding around those pedestrian crossings, and a lot of caution needed on the corners, I would say, Mark, today.
Hayley, it gives the... a bit like certain things in the opening ceremony last night, it gives the impression of actually cycling on an ice rink here to a certain extent when you look at how much water there is on the tarmac.
Yeah, it's really difficult conditions today. I think actually one thing that's good is that all of the riders are going to face the same conditions. It's not like it started absolutely throwing it down part way through, and so some riders are going to get a dry run and some are going to get a soaking wet run. But it gives something else to think about. You know, pressure in the tyres is going to be a big thing, and making sure that you're not running too high a pressure, because if you do, you could just completely slide out on some of these white lines.
And then what does it do to you, sort of your mentality as well? Does it immediately put caution into your brain? I mean, I've seen a few riders come down the ramp here and approach that first corner, and with this very, very amateur eye, there's a sense of caution about them.
Yeah, so that first kind of almost the first turn, you've got the two pedestrian crossings, and the white paint does get particularly slippy, and obviously you really don't want to be crashing on those early corners. But I think we're going to see different approaches depending on the riders and their focuses in these games, because you know some of these riders are also going to be doing the track cycling disciplines or the road race, and I think riders who maybe their sole focus is this time trial, and that's realistically where their medal chances are, we might see them taking more risks and you know throwing a bit more caution to the wind than maybe riders who've got other target races coming up later in the games.
So is that quite a big thing to avoid the road markings? Because now, since you mentioned that, I'm now watching it, I'm thinking, God, there are a lot of pedestrian crossings.
Yeah, you know what? You don't notice. This is something I notice when I race in the UK versus maybe some other countries. You never realise how many traffic islands and things like that and cat's eyes we have in the UK until you race on British roads and think about having to try and avoid them.
Just on the course, and Jonathan, you may have seen this as well. I mean, I was reading some quotes from Remco Evenepoel, who is the 2022 World Road Race Champion, and he's talked about this being a really fast course, but at the same time, the first 5 kilometres and the last 5 kilometres are not great because of potholes.
So that's Boulevard Saint-Germain. So basically there's this straight from the start of the race, which is at Les Invalides, right in the middle of the centre, by Pont Alexandre III, which is the main showpiece bridge over the River Seine. And then they go south of the river through the left bank, parallel with the river, basically, Hayley, on a 5-kilometre straight. Now, later on the course, it loops around the Bois de Vincennes out to the east of the city, but then it comes back down that same straight. So they'll be doing it twice in both directions. And I think the hope was that it would be a dry day, it would be a thrilling, fast sprint finish to the end, which, of course, it still will be, but with hazards.
Yeah, it's going to be spectacular. I think, Mark, you actually maybe you changed some of Remco's choice words there, but yeah, he was a little bit critical of some of the road surface, and we were chatting about this earlier. Actually, one of the hazards of it being wet and potholey is that some of the cracks, some of the potholes could fill with water and actually mean that riders might not see them, or certainly see them too late in order to be able to safely avoid them. And hitting a pothole at the kind of speeds these riders will be going, you know, they're going to potentially suffer flat tyres or worse. And, you know, we really don't want to see a race determined by a mechanical issue. So that's something that hopefully won't occur, but is a possibility.
And this is why we're literally the dream team for this race, Hayley, because you've won medals, you've won time trials. Last time I was on a bike, I went into a pothole and I haven't had the time to fix my bike since.
Yeah,
dream team. All bases covered.
Yeah, we know everything. We can talk about the mechanical problems and the racing issues. That's we've got it all.
Set up Anna Henderson for us then, Jonathan.
Commonwealth silver medalist from 2 years ago, silver at the European Road Championships last year, first in the National Road Championships this year, and fourth in the Worlds last summer. So that in itself tells you that she's absolutely in the conversation for the medals here. Obviously, a lot of things have to go right, Hayley, for Anna Henderson to get onto that podium, not least a close eye on her main rivals. But what do you think? Is it possible that she could get a medal today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, maybe prior to the National Championships in June, there were some questions over how Anna would be, because she's actually suffered two broken collarbones this year. But, you know, she came back, she dominated British Nationals and really showed that, you know, she's in excellent time trialling form. So she's one of a group of riders in this female race that I think could be battling for potentially a bronze medal, or, you know, the kind of 4th, 5th, 6th places. I kind of have my own view on who we might see as the top 2 or 3. But, you know, anything can happen in these races, and Anna definitely has the shape, definitely has the time trialling ability to be right there in the medals.
Go on, share that view then.
So I think Taylor Knibb, the American who's currently racing, her compatriot Chloe Dygert. I think Chloe Dygert, she's my favourite to win, personally. The other people that I think are the most likely to be up there in the top 3 medal positions are Ellen van Dijk and Grace Brown. Ellen van Dijk's actually going off a little bit earlier in the field. She didn't race at the last Olympics, and she was on maternity leave last year, so we've not seen her in a major international time trial recently. But, you know, she's one of the best. She's been a 3-time world champion, so you definitely can't count her out. And yeah, Grace Brown, the Australian, who's second to last off. Those are my kind of top 3, I would say. But, you know, if one of them had a slight issue, anything that slowed them down, there are quite a few other women who will be right on their heels and you know, ready to take their place.
Just on the draw, is it a completely random draw how they go out, and also is there a prime spot in this? I mean, the later you go, is that better, because do you know what you have to beat at that stage? Can people communicate with you on the way?
Yeah, so you have in a time trial, normally you can get information from team cars. So you get timing information. You might also have helpers out on the road in certain parts of the course with timing boards. You see that a lot in road racing. So you can get information. I would actually say that normally in a time trial, not today so much because we're not going to see the changing weather conditions, but the benefits of starting at different times of day could actually be due to the weather. You know, the wind might change the direction, the intensity of the wind, and rain. You know, I mentioned before that luckily all of the riders today look like they're going to get the same very wet roads. But, you know, if it started raining halfway through a race, then the riders in the early part of the field could have been taking corners full gas, and later on, you know, they're going to have to be more cautious. So, you know, there are definitely sometimes benefits, but today, you know, I think all the riders should face similar conditions, and maybe it doesn't matter so much where they're starting.
Hayley, Jonathan, for the time being, thank you very much. So we'll follow Anna Henderson in the women's time trial later on. Josh Tarling goes in the men's time trial. The men's time trial gets underway at 25 to 4 UK time until 5:05. So that's when the men's gets underway. The women should finish by around 3:10. Let's just go to the cricket. Do Root and Stokes continue to build this partnership, Dan?
They do, and 2 landmarks as well. Stokes has moved to his 50 in the first over after lunch. He has 53, pulled a ball for 4, and the West Indies have gone to a short ball attack. And they did the same thing to Joe Root, and he pulled his ball for 4. They've got this strange field with 3 men out on the leg side, and when he got that boundary, Root moved past 12,000 runs in Test cricket, became only the second Englishman to do it after Sir Alistair Cook. England 167 for 5. We've just had 7 balls since lunch.
Mas Faruqi has now moved on from watching the French compare to Novak Djokovic.
Yeah, big cheers. Lots of Serbian noise and flags now inside Chatre here. Novak Djokovic getting his Olympic campaign underway pretty impressively. He's just taken the first set against Australia's Matthew Ebden 6-love. The TV feed here, though, showing us the players before they came out on court, and he was doing a big show and a big gesture of doing stretches of that right knee, which he's still got the grey strapping on, but he was doing some sideways jogging thing on a treadmill, which was really slightly strange and seemed to confuse Matthew Ebden quite a lot, judging by his face. But yeah, he's powering through this match. Play continuing as well over on Long, where Carlos Alcaraz of Spain is going well against Hadi Habib of Lebanon. He is 6. Well, he's just taken the first set there as well. 6-3 he's taken that, the Spaniard. No Brits, though, featuring yet, because this rain delay is meaning now no play here at Roland Garros on the outside courts before 4:15 local time.
Thank you, Maz. Here on 5 Live, throughout the course of the Olympics, we can take you wherever the story is, wherever the Team GB medals may be, whatever the most exciting sport is. We can go anywhere over the next couple of weeks. You can also watch certain sports on BBC One and on the iPlayer as well, and you can follow everything with the live text on the BBC Sport website. Let's talk boxing with Steve Bunt. Most of Team GB's fighters have got really difficult contests after the draws were made earlier this week. Before we hear from Bunty, he spoke to coach Dave Alloway earlier about the draws.
Obviously it's always going to be tough, but there is a mixed bag there, but they're all prepared for it. They know what was coming because of the seeds were already announced beforehand, so yeah, it is what it is.
And there are 1 or 2 people that get a sort of golden ticket to come here. And why is it, Dave, we never ever get one of those? Why is it we get world champions? Well, I think we've got 3 or 4 world champions.
I just think it's the luck of the draw, Steve. No matter what they do with technology, it's just the draw. That's the way it is. It's the way it happens.
When you left the box this afternoon, what was their mood like as they were going into the draw? Were they sitting there fingers crossed? Are they just like, it doesn't matter who it is, I want to get in the ring anyway?
No, they just want to get in the ring, Steve. They're ready to go now. They've had great preparation. We've been here a little while now. They've bedded in. They're enjoying the experience. They just want to box.
And when you're sitting there listening to it, Dave, you know all the boxers, you've been in the corners with them. Are you hearing the opponents? Are there any of those strike some fear into you? Any of those go, I don't want to get too confident, but I like that one, I fancy that one?
Not really, because in this game anything can happen. That's the beauty of it. You think you might have just a slightly easier draw, and all of a sudden it could be your hardest fight.
So when you go back and tell them, Dave, whose reaction will you be able to gauge? Like, will Delicious go, I don't care? Will Pat Brown go, I want to fight twice in one night? What would it be like when you tell them?
They all react differently, but they're all ultra professional now, and even the inexperienced ones just love being here and they want to perform, and they're ready to, and they'll go out and do it when they have to.
Are you at that point now, Dave? It's a 3-year cycle. I know it's been a year short, but you can't wait for it to start. You as a coach, all those hours, all those weeks, all those months, all those trips, all those nights away from home, you can't wait for it to start.
Yeah, I've been very lucky, Steve, to have done this. Is my 4th Olympics with Lee Pullen and a few other coaches, and Gary Howe and Rob and everybody that works behind the teams have been here before. But yeah, we just want to get them going, because that's what we do, get them going.
Dave Alloway, coach with Steve Bunt. You mentioned Delicious there. Let's start with Delicious Ori, shall we? Who goes in the super heavyweight, and he's up against a 2021 world silver medalist.
As I say, chappers, and I'm not kidding, this is a really hard draw. I mean, I'm a decent veteran of Olympic draws, and this is without doubt the hardest set of fights I've ever known. But saying that, they're a unique, tight little unit, this team, and I think that's really important. You were talking earlier on to Crammy and to Jules when he was here about British teams. Well, the boxing I would throw into you is a team. It's always worked as a team, and I really mean it. And it's a close team. It's important. Delicious Ori, all Delicious has got to do, and it sounds like a ridiculous start, is perform as well as he possibly can. Okay, 4 of the 6 have to perform out of their skin just to get through the first stage. Delicious has just got to do what Delicious can do, because he's a big, extremely talented man. There's been an attempt over the last couple of years, because Delicious has been put forward for everything. I've been doing that. Anything that 5 Live, get a phone call from a producer, bosh, Delicious is on the radio the next morning, the next night, and that's fine. And because of his name Delicious, and because he's so friendly and smiley, I think people have maybe not realised just how serious this kid is. He was sent all around the globe in 2021. He was sent to tournaments he had no chance of winning. He fought his heart out. He'd win once, win twice, and then get beat in the third fight. 5 or 6 defeats over an 18-month period in tournaments in places like Astana, places like Belgrade, places that, trust me, 30 years ago you never even went to. He's been going there and he's been learning his trade. He's a serious fighter with a fun name. Let's get it right. Because if Delicious isn't the best name in the Olympics here, then tell me what it is. Tell me what it is, because Delicious is absolutely glorious. He loves Delicious and he can really fight. If he gets through this first one, which I believe he will, if he gets through this first one, he'll get that confidence, but more than that, he'll galvanise the team. The only unfortunate thing is that by the time he fights, 3 of them have already boxed, and you know what the rest of that sentence is, and they could have easily lost.
Yeah, and one of those fighters that you said has got to sort of perform with the best fight of their lives is Charlie Davison, presumably.
Yeah, Charlie has to be as good as she's ever been, just a little bit better, whereas 1 or 2 have to perform like double the best they've ever done. Charlie Davison is against it. She's fighting a Turkish woman tonight at 7 p.m. UK time, 8 p.m. out here in Paris, called Hatis Akbas, who's won multiple medals around the world. Charlie Davison is a remarkable story. Again, I would say that. I'm not going to come on here and tell you that there's no stories in the boxing team. I'm going to come on here and tell you there's 50 stories in the boxing team, and give me another hour to tell the stories. You know, that's the way I work. That is the way I work. Just put your feet up, get a cigar, and wind me up, and I'll come back in an hour. So Charlie Davison had 7 years out. She had 3 children, 7 years out. She'd boxed all around the world when she was 13, 14, 15. 7 years out, comes back. She's gained about 10 kilos. She loses a little bit of it. She loses a little bit more. She gets half a chance to go to Tokyo. Just a bit of a dream. Luckily, Tokyo's delayed a year. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been in Tokyo. She goes to Tokyo. She has a win. She's a bit overwhelmed in the second fight. But she's a different woman. I was talking to her in Birmingham recently when they do the kit launch. And she was a totally different woman. She was unrecognisable to the kid, even though she was a mum of 3. Call her a kid mum of 3. She was a totally different woman, and she's got her head right. I've got a sneaky feeling. If you at some point you ask me who might nick a medal, I just fancy Charlie will. Plus 2 of her 3 kids are coming here. They were very young last time, and they're coming. I think Charlie Davison, alongside Delicious, could become big stories in this team.
So she fights at 7 o'clock tonight. Yeah. Let's hear from her, because you've been talking to her.
Looking back now, it was all rushed. I never got to enjoy it because I was sort of fast-tracked because I had to be. Like you say, I come on the team, I had my assessment, I then got picked to go to the Olympic qualifiers. Forever grateful. Honestly, that's what it was like. It was like, boom, I was there. The experience is what I needed. Yeah, it was all fast-tracked. Wasn't able to enjoy it, but this time I'm soaking up every single second, and honestly, I can't wait to perform.
Because literally the last time when we were getting ready for the Olympics, you're still trying to work out childcare. You've got 3 kids under 10, you're trying to do this. Whereas now it doesn't get. They've got latchkeys. They can come in and make their own food. They're all adults nearly now.
That's it.
Kind of.
A lot better ages now. 12, 10 and 8. Like you say, the last Olympics, they were babies, so they're treated like babies, but now they're more mature. The older 2 are coming out to watch me in Paris, so...
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So I can't wait, and to have them in the crowd and them cheering is just going to be phenomenal.
Are you looking forward to it? Are you looking forward to being an Olympic GB boxer again?
Yeah.
And this time getting close to a medal or getting to a medal? Are you looking forward to it, Charlie?
Honestly, I can't tell you how much I think about this every night I go to sleep, every day I wake up, every run I do, every session. No matter what I'm doing, I'm always thinking, that always comes to my mind. I'm competing again at my 2nd Olympics, Paris Olympics, and it feels like it's at home because it's so close.
Yeah, of course.
The children who come to watch, like I say, my family, my coaches. It's just, honestly, I'm so excited. I just can't wait. And it's, I don't know, it's like a kid at Christmas, but more excited than that, and I'm buzzing.
Think she'll relish this draw? Is she the kind of character who will go, all right, then bring it on?
Absolutely, even though she only weighs about 50-odd kilos, so she's about 8 stone.
This is bantamweight,
yeah, they call it bantamweight. It's slightly different than the pro weight. Even she would have been, of all of them, I mean, I know 4 of the 6 fairly well. The other 2 I know a little bit, but my gut feeling is that Charlie Davison would beat. And if you'd have had a measure on them, just checking their heartbeat when they were told the draw and how serious their opponents were, I have a feeling hers might have been like some of those marathon runners. You know, the ones that barely get a pulse. She's relishing it. Listen, she may be a mum of 3. Okay, she may be Charlie Davison. She may be tiny, but there's something quite ferocious about Charlie Davison. I think she's relishing. She's like that. You know, she's got the number 2 seed if she had the number 1 seed, who she's got in the next fight, if she beats this woman, by the way. Trust me, I wasn't kidding, Chappers. I wasn't underselling this draw.
So it's number 2, then number 1?
Yeah, because the way they've done the seeding here isn't the way we've done isn't the way the seeding works in real life. So they've done the seeding here on whether you won your global competition. But of course, the problem is with that is that if you win the the Fiji, Tonga, the South Sea Islander thing, the Asian, the Pan Asian. They're not nowhere near as serious as the Europeans. The Europeans the major event across all of boxing. The European is the major event. It's the hardest one. So many countries, so many top countries. So really, the 3 or 4 in Europe are sometimes the 3 or 4 best in the world across the 13 weights, and that's certainly the case here. So the top 2 are both from Europe, even though they're not seeded 1 and 2. They're seeded 3 and 7 because it's just the way. They've invented a crazy seeding system for here. So basically,
I'm not sure I understand anything at that last minute.
I'll try one more time, Chapman. The 4 big regional areas, global areas, they go into a hat. And they just get pulled out 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
So it's nothing to do with talent. Even if the number 4 woman has knocked out the women in 3, 2, and 1, if she's knocked them out, it's irrelevant because it was done randomly. It's tricky. You're a bit closer to understand.
I am, yeah. I might need a third go, but maybe we do that off air. Dan Norcross at Edgbaston.
It's England captain Ben Stokes. The partnership has finally been broken. 115 he put on with Joe Root, but they've gone to this short ball ploy I was telling you about, and he was suckered into a pool, was caught by his opposing number, Craig Brathwaite, the West Indies skipper. He's gone for 54. England are 177 for 6. The new batter, Jamie Smith, has joined Root.
Sports Extra to listen to ball-by-ball commentary of that. The women's time trial still going on. We'll get updates from Jonathan Overend and Hayley Simmons shortly. We've got the men's time trial that gets underway a little bit later on. Keeping an eye on the dressage for you. We've got men's rugby 7 semi-finals to come. We've got canoe slalom as well this afternoon. And if you're only just tuning in, if you've only just trying to find out what's gone on at the Olympics today, then Britain does have its first medal on the opening day, and that came in it was a bronze for Yasmin Harper and Scarlett Mew-Jensen in the synchro 3-metre springboard. So every day during the Olympics, you're going to tell one of us, probably me normally, but it could be Tony, it could be Ellie, it could be Kelly. You're going to tell us a story.
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you a story. I told mostly over the last couple of evenings. I've told general stories. So what I've been asked to do this time is to not be so bizarre,
random.
not be so random. I've completely.
Is that a challenge?
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell the truth. Yes, it is a challenge. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm going to tell you a story each day, and it's going to be stories of gold medal winners. It's going to be stories of great Olympians, but it's not going to be the Bolts, the Coes, the Thompsons, the Phelpses, the Holmeses, the Lewises, and there's going to be no Brits involved. Okay, which is slightly controversial. Okay? Yeah. But for the first one, I am staying down the Steve Bunce lane.
Okay, so this is a bit random.
This is a random one, and I'll probably get my wrist slapped later on because I'm meant to be doing giants, but they're not giants, but I love them. First Paris Games, 1900. I'm going to tell you an Olympic marathon story, the Mad Marathon, because I've got to be honest with you, it made the headlines for all the wrong reasons. When you hear the story, you'll understand how it made the headlines for all the right reasons. But I'm going to start at the end of this particular marathon, because that's the way it should work. The winner, well, as I say, the winner was Michael Tiarto. I checked the spelling earlier on with Jules. He was a Frenchman, but he wasn't really a Frenchman. He was from Luxembourg. And I'll explain, The favourite was the American Arthur Newton, and he insisted that he crossed the line. But also, what he actually said was, he said, I took the lead halfway through and nobody passed me. Now, generally, if that happens, that means you've won the race, Chappers. Am I right? I mean, tell me if I'm wrong.
You are right, yeah.
So, if you're in a race and no one goes past you, you go past everyone, you're generally considered the winner.
Say so, yeah.
However, poor old Arthur did thankfully win a bronze medal at the next Olympics. Poor old Arthur, when he got there, he found out that 3 Frenchmen, and a Swede had crossed the line before him. How does that happen, Chappers?
How does that happen?
Well, I'll explain to you if you don't mind me saying so, No one could understand how until they had a little look. And the man that came across the line first, Tiarto, the geezer who was meant to be French, but really was from Luxembourg, well, he had a job in Paris. And I'll tell you what his job was. Don't guess, You know what he was? It was a baker's delivery boy. He knew every single street. He knew every single avenue. He knew every single route. Okay, I know it means street, but he knew it, brother. He knew every single thing. Okay, so the bottom line is he knew his way around the city. Okay, now 14 brave souls. They started, okay, out in the Bois de Boulogne. I believe that's the forest, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Pronunciation wasn't too bad.
Very good.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah. That's because I use the central line and it goes to Faden Boys.
Oh,
okay?
it does.
Anyway, so they start off. They were a few miles away. The city was sweltering, 90 degrees, okay? And the route included an absolute skirmish, okay, with 60 head of Herefordshire cattle, okay, outside the abattoirs at La Villette. Okay, so the marathon runners have come into the city from the forest and they're absolutely stunned because they're now stuck in the middle. They're trying to run. There's no stewards, there's no markings, there's absolutely nothing. They've got to battle through the cattle. Now, I'm not sure if it's in there somewhere that maybe Newton lost the lead, couldn't see, because marathon runners are not generally that tall, are they?
No, they're not, no.
Yeah,
no.
so and cattle are big, so who knows? Perhaps somewhere in the middle of there, who knows? It could have happened. And the leading American, Dick Grant,
couldn't see the cows for the trees.
They couldn't see the cows for the trees. You've got to be careful how you say that. Now, the leading American, Dick Grant, okay, he tried to sue the IOC because he claimed that another, I'm assuming unrelated, baker's boy on a bike deliberately crashed into him, sabotaged his run, came out of nowhere, smashed into him. So Dick tried to sue, he didn't get there, okay? And it was also claimed that the French fans who were lying in the street threw everything at the foreign runners. Okay, threw things at them like bikes and old loaves and stuff like that, okay? Which is we don't even know that. Meanwhile, old Michael Tiato, the baker's boy, you're going to love this. He finished in 2:59.45. In second place was another Frenchman called Champion, okay? And in third place was a guy from Sweden called Fast. So there was a Champion and Fast in the top three. However, no medals were given, and he got himself a China pot. Just a China pot. He got a China pot. He did eventually in 1912 get a gold medal, which is absolutely lovely. But wait for this, Sheppers. 100 years later, it was only 100 years later that the Luxembourgs, okay, they decided to pull out their complaint. They'd lodged the IOC for 100 years.
They should have had the gold medal.
They should have had the gold medal, and not this imposter Frenchman who was actually from Luxembourg. So that's the story. I love it. Okay, I love the idea. They ran through this mad city full of bikes, ruffians, bruisers, boozers, and a kid called Michel Tiato won the Olympic medal. That will be the last of the obscure gold medalists on this particular course. We'll come back with the big names who that jogs my mind. That's the type of thing I'm trying to do. Right.
You've got another 12 of those, haven't
13 or 14.
Wow. And the women's time trial has finished. Hasn't. Still about half an hour to go on the women's time trial. We'll go to Jonathan Overend and Hayley Simmons shortly. We'll go around all the sport that's going on at the moment. Thank you, Bunsey. Let's get the latest BBC News. 4 minutes past 2.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
Away from the Olympics then, and the Hamas-run Gazan Health Ministry says at least 30 people have been killed and 100 injured in an Israeli military strike on a school in the territory. The building was sheltering displaced people. The Israel Defense Forces said a Hamas command centre was embedded in the Khadija school. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, could delay some big infrastructure projects on Monday. She's expected to tell Parliament that the Conservatives left public finances in a worse state than Labour previously thought. High-speed trains in France are still being affected by delays and cancellations after sabotage attacks on the railway network in Paris yesterday. Officials say engineers worked through the night to carry out repairs, and about 70% of trains are now running. The cinema chain Cineworld has announced plans to close 6 branches, which could put hundreds of jobs at risk. Cinemas in Glasgow, Bedford, Hinckley, Loughborough, Yate and Swindon will all close as part of the company's restructuring.
So swings his arm, looking for his 5th wicket. He goes in and bowls. It's bowling!
England versus the West Indies, the 3rd test, live from Edgbaston.
First time I bowled in England, for England as well. It was quite special to finish it off in a session.
Ash getting 5 wickets, he showed his class and he showed the world what he's got.
Hear every ball, every boundary and every wicket with 5 Sports Extra.
And keep up to date with the TMS podcast on BBC Sounds.
Can you just do that root again? I liked it. Root. Lovely.
England versus the West Indies, the 3rd test, live right now over on 5 Sports Extra.
The Olympic
Games, Paris 2024.
With Mark Chapman.
On BBC Radio 5 Live.
And for the first time in 20 years, there's an opening day medal for Team GB.
It's going to be a bronze for Great Britain on day one of the Olympic Games in Paris. And it's going to be Britain's first ever female synchro diving medal.
It's been a strong start for Britain as well in the dressage.
I cannot put into words the score that Laura Collette has just nailed here, 17.50. We are talking nearly dressage perfection.
Adam Peaty won his heat, so he's through to the semi-finals of the 100-metre breaststroke. GB's men's gymnasts are in a good position to qualify for the team and various individual finals. The men's hockey team won their opening match against Spain. Now in this hour here in Paris we have the conclusion to the cycling's women's time trial, we've got canoe slalom, and we've also got the big semi-final in the men's rugby sevens between France and South Africa.
This is 5 Live Sports at the Olympic Games.
With Mark Chapman.
On 5 Live and BBC Sounds.
Let's go to the women's time trial on the wet streets of Paris, and some of them, Jonathan Overend, have been struggling to stay upright.
Getting ever wetter out here, the race against the clock, and in fact we're seeing Taylor Knibb, the rider from the United States, change her bike. Now she's been off her bike 3 times. As far as we've seen, there have been 4 crashes in total. Hayley Simmons, a couple of them in exactly the same place, going around a roundabout close to the National Institute of Sport.
Yeah, it looks as though that area is particularly slippy. We've seen Cecily Uttrup-Ludwig and Taylor Knibb both come off in that place. And actually, we just saw Taylor Knibb have a bike change, presumably as a result of an incident following her 3rd crash. And the mechanic who took her spare bike off the roof actually fell over, running her spare bike to her. So, I mean, that I think that tells you all you need to know about some of the road conditions.
It's treacherous out there, really is treacherous, but it is a race against a clock, so getting that balance right is going to be utterly key now, isn't it? Between the caution, but also the urge for speed.
Yeah, you know, and we can see, I think you can see some of the riders who are naturally a little bit more uncertain of the wet conditions just going off that bit steadier, being really careful on the corners. And you know, normally you'd say that kind of that cautious approach will cost them precious seconds. But actually today, you know, getting it just slightly too quick, getting the entry line a little bit wrong is actually going to lose them the race. It's one of those days where actually you're going to say that you know, cornering quickly could lose you the race rather than win you the race.
Well, we're not going to be far off the first time being set by the first rider. Anna Henderson, the British hope, the 4th place finisher at the World Championship, so clearly a medal contender, will be off in just under 10 minutes' time, and then it'll be her out onto this treacherous 32.4 kilometre route, initially through the streets of central Paris and then out into the park to the east of the city, the Bois de Vincennes, before coming back in down the Boulevard Saint-Germain before finishing on Pont Alexandre III, the Alexander III bridge, right in the centre of Paris here. But it does feel like the rain is getting harder. More and more of the cameras out on the course are getting sodden with drips of rain on it. The caution is etched across the faces of all these riders who, of course, are used, Hayley, so many of them, to training in hot conditions, dry conditions, and using that for extra speed.
Yeah, you know, a couple of people have been joking actually about Josh Tarling maybe being particularly suited by these conditions, coming from Wales and being used to riding there. But it's a really difficult day, and we were talking earlier about the rain maybe masking some of the potholes on this opening and closing section, but at least these roads are relatively straight, whereas the middle part of the course where you head near the park, you've got the difficulties of potentially some sap or things falling off the trees and making the road slippy there. So actually I don't think you've got any safe places on this course today.
And we also saw a rider go over a speed bump earlier, and the landing time was particularly difficult with the rear wheel spinning around, and as you mentioned earlier, Mark, they're going down this ramp at the start, and a couple of them have really wobbled just getting going there. So it's so difficult for these riders. As we say, we've seen 4 crashes. We're still waiting for the first finisher, though, to mark the time to beat in the time trial.
Well, Hayley, as you said, that the replacement bike being brought on for Nib was, I mean, if it wasn't the Olympics and she'd just, had a serious fall before, I mean, it was comical. The guy went absolutely flying and nearly took her out again, actually, as the sort of replacement bike got launched towards her ankles.
Yeah, I've only actually ever seen it happen once before, and it was in a road race where a mechanic took a bike or some wheels off the roof and ran towards the scene of an incident and actually fell off the side of the road into a ditch, into a grass verge. But no, I've never seen that happen in a time trial before, and a part of you kind of finds it funny, but it's really not. Like, it's Taylor Knibb is not having a good day. We mentioned a rider going over a speed bump, and that was also Taylor Knibb, and she actually. She caught that well. You saw her kind of wobble as she landed, but then since then she's come off several times and obviously suffered some sort of resultant problem with her bike, and maybe didn't necessarily realise straight away, and then had that bike change. So, her race is definitely over in terms of any sort of result hope, but luckily she's obviously still able to continue.
Okay, Anna Henderson goes off in 3 or 4 minutes' time, so we'll be back with Jonathan and Hayley for that. In the meantime, I'm going to talk canoeing with John Akers, which is one of those phrases that you will only say every 4 years. How are you?
Very well, Mark. You?
Yes, I'm good, thanks. Think you're more nervous about doing this, or Adam Burgess is competing?
Yeah, well, I think it's probably 50-50 at the moment. I've actually just spoken to Adam Burgess' dad, because he's a Stoke City fan, Adam, and I lived in Stoke for 20 years. And bizarrely, Dean, his dad, was a listener to my breakfast show. So I've just chatted to him in the stadium and found out more in a 20-minute chat with him than I had from trawling the internet for 3 days. So
how's Adam Burgess' dad?
Nervous. They're all wearing bright yellow T-shirts, so you might well be able to see them amongst the 12,000 fans in the rain at the moment, and they're wearing the see-through ponchos. Nervous, but thinks his son can do it, because Adam goes in the C1 canoe today. That's kneeling down, 1 paddle with the T-bar at the top. He came so close, Adam Burgess, in Tokyo, just 0.15 seconds from a bronze medal, and on his day, very consistent this season, can bring home the gold.
He's carried that with him, hasn't he, for 3 years, that 0.16 seconds off a medal.
Yeah, he really has, and I spoke to him afterwards, Adam, and he's very positive. He's into lots of sort of alternative kinds of methods of getting himself prepared for events. He's done quite a lot of work on his breathing. He's done quite a lot of work with sports psychologists, which of course the British canoe team have as well, and he's out to try and get himself on the podium this time. Really good season in World Cups. He's made 7 consecutive finals, I think, in the build-up to this. Very consistent, can beat anyone on his day, going today in the canoe, so fingers crossed for him.
But I mean, he said about the breath work that people have an image of this, that you just lying on the floor and breathing in and out and quietly meditating, but he says this is all part of his strength and conditioning, basically.
Yeah, and part of what he does when he's out there competing as well, and how he uses his breath and how he can use it in certain situations to relax himself, and then when he's got to paddle hard, and just how to control it and his diaphragm, and it's really helped him, I think.
So what time does he go off?
So he's going to go off fairly soon, I think, before 3 o'clock. So at the moment, we're seeing they go in reverse world ranking order at the minute in the canoe. So that's what's happening at the moment. So that's kneeling down, 1 paddle. We're just seeing Casey Ekfeld going off at the moment of America. Haneda of Japan's got the fastest time at the moment. They've got 2 runs at this, so the heats, they get 2 runs. They take the fastest time from each run. Just to picture it, it's the white water, like at Lee Valley, with the poles hanging down, the gates upstream and downstream, and they've got to basically put in a time, which we expect Adam to do, in those 2 heats. The fastest time gets you through to the semis.
Thank you, John. Back with John then for when Adam Burgess goes in the canoe. And now it's Anna Henderson on the bike with Jonathan and Hayley.
Anna Henderson, 25 years of age, from Hemel Hempstead, sports science degree from the University of Birmingham. As a child was into ice skating, netball, tennis, football, swimming, one of those sports mad families who just want their kids to have a go at anything and see what sticks. And in Anna Henderson's case, it was most definitely road cycling, and here she is as a medal chance in the women's time trial about to get underway. Now, we have seen the first finisher. It's Urksa Pintar from Slovenia, who's clocked a time of 45 minutes, 7 seconds, 0.15. So just over 45 minutes. That's the time to beat. 45 minutes on a really bad day for 32.4 kilometres. So just to put that into some sort of context, as we look now at Anna Henderson on the starting position, all in navy blue with trim of red and a white helmet, and it's a good start from her as she comes down this ramp heading towards the Grand Palais, towards the River Seine, before she'll turn right onto the Quai d'Orsay by the Musée d'Orsay, the second most well-known museum in the city, and she is off and running for 3/4 of an hour, which could, Hayley Simmons, change her life.
Yeah, and that was a really confident start from Anna. She didn't look at all fazed by the wet starting ramp, the fact that it's raining. And I think that's really key. I think if you go into this race with the mentality of, it could be wet, it could be slippy, you're already in a kind of negative mindset. Whereas if you go in thinking, you know what, it's the same for everyone. I've ridden my bike, every single day in all sorts of conditions. It's just riding my bike, and that slight difference in mindset can make a huge difference, and she looked focused, so I think she could have a really good ride.
I mentioned all those sports that she tried as a young child. Then in her teens, it was skiing, wasn't it, that really took over, and she became English under-18 junior slalom champion back in 2015. So it's really been a wonderful ride through all these different activities, hasn't it?
Yeah, I know her family quite well. I know her mum really well, Janet, and they're just a really fun, supportive, active family, and her parents follow her everywhere, and she loves sport, she loves being active, and she's obviously, as you said, found something that she's really quite good at.
Yeah, took up cycling actually to help recover from a broken leg sustained on the slopes. So only 3 more riders we're waiting for, and then practically everybody will be on the streets of Paris. Christina Schweinberger from Austria is just gone. Grace Brown will be next from Australia, and then the heavy race favourite from the United States, Chloe Dygert. But of course, Chloe Dygert will be aware that her teammate, Taylor Knibb, has had all this trouble, Hayley, crashing at least 3 times on the course. Does she have to try to shut that out and focus on her own game?
Yeah, she might be aware, but she also might not. Sometimes the team managers, they don't share this information because they don't want the athletes to be affected. So potentially she'll be in this little kind of bubble, as you call it, and she might have been given the information, but equally she might not have been.
What about the fact there have been multiple crashes at exactly the same point of the course? So we presume that little circuit of that roundabout by the Institute of Sport is particularly slippy, or that the surface will that affect whether coaches pass on that information to riders?
Yeah, potentially. It's interesting because obviously we can see that bit of the course from a specific angle. It's difficult to tell exactly what the road does on entry, how narrow it is or how wide, because it looks like the 2 riders that we saw crash took quite a narrow line at that particular moment. So whether that's due to the road shape leading in, I'm not sure, but there could just be that little bit on the inside that's and because they've taken a narrow entry, they're having to almost corner a little bit more extremely, and that's what's causing the slip.
So as the rain continues to fall in central Paris, the new race lead has been set by Yıldız Hashimi from Afghanistan, 44 minutes 29.13 seconds. So that's now the time to beat as we look at one of the riders who crashed earlier in the race, and it does look like the Dane Cecile Ultrop Ludwig is now going to set the new fastest time. So that's impressive considering that she was off her bike at one stage. So it looks like that time time is coming down all the time, as you would expect as we get through the field, Mark, towards the race favourites.
I mean, just from some of the stories that you've told between the two of you in the last hour, you can't say that Anna Henderson doesn't put her body on the line for whatever sport she's performing in. So a slalom skier and broke her leg, then got on a bike and has broken her collarbone twice. She's dedicated.
Yeah, and you know what? So, I mean, obviously Anna has had those issues, but I feel like a lot of the race favourites for this event have had quite a few struggles this year. So one of the pre-race favourites, Ellen van Dijk, she actually broke her ankle on the 3rd of June at a training camp. And she was only really cleared to compete on the 15th of July. And she's had a really rocky kind of last few Olympic cycles. She wasn't selected for the previous Olympics. The year before she was, the Olympics before, she was 4th. So a lot of these athletes have really been through it in the run-up to these games.
And on Anna Henderson, Mark, to your point, I'm told that she was first taken ice skating at 18 months. So no doubt she was used to falling over quite a lot. Probably hurting herself quite a lot at a very young age, so she's ready for this for sure.
Thank you both. I mean, there is, and hopefully maybe your lunch is finished, because I don't want to put you off your lunch, but there is actually quite a gruesome injury story here at the games already, which I don't know if you've seen this, Steve Bunce.
No, but I want to hear it.
There's an Australian men's hockey player called Matt Dawson, and he broke his finger really badly before the games started, and was told that it wouldn't heal in time, but he chose to have it amputated at the knuckle so that he would be able to play.
I'm going to call you bluff on that one.
No.
So that
he would be able to play. So Matt Dawson, so he had the badly broken finger amputated at the knuckle, so he was able to play. And the story goes that he said to his wife, I'm thinking of doing this, and she said, well, don't do anything rash. The following day he'd done it, and he's here and able to play.
That is a shocking
the dedication of some people to be here is both phenomenal and frightening.
Can I tell you a little story, Chelsea? Have I got 60 seconds?
Yeah, 30.
30. Oh, I don't know if I can do it. No, I'm going to hold it. It's that good. It's that good. It's not quite. It's not. Actually, no. I can top your knuckle story.
Okay.
It doesn't matter when we do it.
All
but
right.
Remember back to the knuckle point on the first Saturday. That's when I held the story back, because it would take more than 30 seconds.
Okay.
When I deliver it, you're going to love it.
Thank you very much. Off to the rugby sevens?
No, off to the boxing this evening.
Off to the boxing.
Past the rugby sevens.
Okay, just going past the rugby sevens. All right, we'll go to the rugby sevens in a little while. Thank you, Steve. Where am I going next? I've forgotten where I'm going next. Oh, tennis with Maz.
Difficult to follow that from Bunsey, isn't it? And my French compere friend is back as well, because this has been a pummelling by Novak Djokovic here on Châteauroux. The Serb dropping just one game against Matthew Ebden in this emphatic victory in the first round. A really nice moment from the Australian when he finally got that game on the board in the second set. The old footballer lifting the front of your jersey over your head celebration routine to prevent the double bagel. So Djokovic cantering through in 53 minutes. Remember, the Olympic gold is the only title really that he hasn't won in his career. Looking a different player as well to the one that lost the Wimbledon final earlier this month. Carlos Alcaraz has just won as well over on Long. He's beaten Hadi Habib of Lebanon in straight sets. He now switches his focus to playing in the doubles with Rafael Nadal later, as we still wait for the weather to ease so play can begin on the outside courts here at Roland Garros, and hopefully some tennis at some point for some of the Brits.
Ball-by-ball commentary of the cricket is on Sports Extra. Dan Norcross can update us here on 5 Live.
Yeah, thank you. Although I too am on tenterhooks to hear Steve Bunce's story, but
you better hope the test goes into a 3rd or a 4th day, then, Dan. I think really.
Well, I think it will do, because England are 207 for 6. Joe Root has 80, Smith 22. 1 wicket has been lost since lunch. That of the skipper Ben Stokes, caught in a kind of bouncer strategy, caught by his opposite number Craig Brathwaite. And that ended a partnership of 115. But since Jamie Smith has come in, I've got Mark Ramprakash alongside me, former England batter. The ship has been more than steadied, really. They're going on at a good lick, England. They're nearly 5 and over, and we've seen a monster 6 into maybe even over the Holly stand.
Yeah, Jamie Smith did it at Lord's, huge hit, pull shot, and the same. I think it was off the same bowler, Jaden Seals, slightly short, around about chest high, and boy, did he get into it. Yeah, huge hit over the Hollis stand, and Smith has come in and been quite proactive. I wondered how he would play with Joe Root, sort of the master player at one end, and rotating the strike really well. That I thought, well, perhaps Smith doesn't have to be too extravagant, but he's come in and he's looked to be very positive. He's tried to attack Moti, the left arm spinner, get him off his length, and then we've seen that huge pull shot. So he's looking to be very busy. He's a real talent. I've seen him make runs for England Lions, for Surrey. He deserves his selection as a batter. Of course, he doesn't keep that regularly, but so far he's been doing very well. But this is an important partnership for England. Root, the master batsman, is looking very secure and serene, as he does. And Smith has a real opportunity here to make a statement score and to push England on up to parity and beyond.
Yeah, they're currently 74 runs behind, 208 for 6. Root on 81, and were he to get to 100, he would level Alistair Cook's record of 33 Test match hundreds for an England batter.
Let's go back to Jonathan Overend for an update on the women's time trial.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Taylor Knibb, this American rider, Mark, who, as you saw earlier and we saw, come off her bike 3 times in the early stages of the race. She has just finished, and she's got the second fastest time of all the finishers, which how many have finished so far? 8 have finished. And I mentioned that the first rider home set a time of just under 45 minutes. Well, Knibb's time was 43 minutes and 3 seconds. I mean, at face value to a novice, Hayley Simmons, that's incredible. How's she done that?
Yeah, so she was actually only 3 seconds slower than Marta Lack, who I think currently has the fastest finishing time. And given that she came off 3 times, that's pretty incredible. And you can see that, you know, it didn't kind of dent her confidence at all.
So how much time would she have lost realistically in real time, you know, every time she came off?
So one of the big things, actually, obviously, you know, you see the athletes on the floor and you think, oh, well, they were only actually down for 5 seconds or whatever, or it only took this length of time for the mechanic to get her a bike. But one of the main things is actually the re-acceleration. So if you think about it, she averaged 45 kilometres per hour for her race. But the energy that it will have taken her to go from 0, having crashed and had to restart, back up to that race speed, it's actually costing her quite a lot of time. So that really is a phenomenal ride, and you know, she'll be really interesting to watch because she's also doing the triathlon events at these games. So hopefully, obviously, she's not too badly hurt from these crashes, but you know, she's clearly one to watch.
It does look like she's gone a few rounds with Charlie Davison, who we heard from earlier, Mark, as well, because she's got blood all over her as well. Big gashes down her left leg in 2 separate places from those crashes. So she's unlikely to challenge for a medal, with that time being one of the early starters, but an incredible effort from her to come off a bike 3 times and set the 3rd fastest time so far.
I don't think some of the men who are involved in the Rugby 7 semi-finals will look as bloodied and beaten as Taylor Knibb did when she got off her bike at the end of the time trial, and that's where we're going next. Men's Rugby 7's semi-finals. France, South Africa first up at 2:30, followed by Fiji, Australia at 3. Mouth-watering, Sarah Orchard.
Oh my goodness, what are we about to witness at the Stade de France? 69,000 packed in here for this. France are running out onto the pitch right now. They have done so well to get to this point in the Olympics. And of course, we are going to talk about one man throughout the next 14 minutes. 7's, of course, 7 minutes each way. Antoine Dupont, who has completely flipped on its head the fortunes of this French team. The expectation is high. They're taking on South Africa, who have actually surprised a lot of people. They've got to this semi-final. Watching alongside me, Commonwealth Games silver medalist Tom Varndell. I mean, the atmosphere in the stadium is off the scale.
It is. It's unbelievable. And it's what it's about, isn't it? The Olympic Games, it doesn't get any bigger than this. But France, they put on a hell of a show. It's been incredible. And the crowds look so excited and ready for this big game.
They really are. Antoine Dupont, he's got all the cameras on him, and so many of his teammates who are regulars on this 7th circuit have said he has shone a light on this sport. He is the superstar. He's considered the best player in the world at 15s, but after the disappointment of France at their home World Cup in 15s last year, where they went out at the quarter-final stage against South Africa, he's back. He wants a gold medal, but he's got to get to the gold medal match first, and that is our focus right now here on 5 Live. This is men's 7s. It is the semi-finals. It is France against South Africa. It's France that gets us underway. Ball high into the air, and it's gathered by the South African captain, Selwyn Davids. We're going to talk a lot about him. He has been an incredible servant to this South African side throughout this Olympic campaign, as the ball just goes out on the far side of play. And Speckman also in there as well, making his influence known. But remember, 7 minutes each way, and sevens, Tom Vandel, it is all about pace, lung-busting power, quick tackles, quick rucks, get on your feet, go again.
Yeah, and throughout my whole career, I played sevens, I played 15s, and nothing ever came close to how tired you felt after 7 minutes, 14 minutes of sevens. It is so tiring, and it's so fast. You switch off for 1 second, and the other team can score a try. So you've got to be on it for the whole entire game.
Perez Ido Medi gets the ball in then for the French on the far side of the field, gathered in the end by Riva, the captain. Ball on the floor, quick ruck, distributed again by the French. They're travelling from left to right in this opening half. Bit of a break through the middle comes in the end in Grondidier Ungangun. Gathered this time by the French as they recycle back down the park out towards the far side channel. They're still attacking just outside of the 22, and South Africa are holding. Now, I said South Africa, a bit of a surprise they got to this stage as the France decide to knock on the ball in a very unfortunate moment for them, so they restart with a scrum. But South Africa have surprised a lot of people to get to this point in this Olympic competition. They've never gone further in an Olympics than the bronze medal. But the fact is that they haven't performed at that higher level on the world stage this year. No.
A few years ago, South Africa were the best sevens team in the world. They were brilliant. They were, in terms of their physicality, their speed of play, they did drop off a little bit. But one thing they have always maintained is that physicality in defence, that pressure they put on the opposite team. And I think you can see that they're doing it there. From the minute one, they're going hard defensively. OK, well, it's all action here in the Stade de France. It's South Africa 0, France 0 in this semi-final. 5 minutes still to go in the first half, but we're going to quickly head over to the canoeing and John Akers.
Thank you, Sarah. Welcome to Vers-sur-Marne, the nautical stadium holding 12,000 spectators, and it is absolutely packed at the moment. Waiting for Adam Burgess, Union Jacks flying in the sky, and lots of yellow T-shirts of all of his family and friends who are here from Stoke-on-Trent. It's Adam Burgess they're here to watch, the world number 11, and away he goes down the white water in the C1. It's the canoe slalom, and straight into a reverse gate and across the stopper and through a green gate. The greens are the forward-facing gates, the reds are the reverse, and Adam Burgess, kneeling in his canoe with a single paddle, pumps the water hard on his left-hand side, ducks through a gate, down into a stopper, lots of white water, and then across, almost disappears that canoe underneath him as he goes through the red gate. We'll wait and see his first split time here, Adam Burgess, as he's down and into another green gate and through. A touch, and it's a 2-second penalty. No touches so far through any of these for Adam Burgess, who was 4th in Tokyo, agonisingly so, in the Olympics there by just 0.16 seconds. He's ahead. He's in the lead at the first split. 0.24 hundredths of a second, Adam Burgess, in this first heat of the C1 canoe slalom. They get 2 goes at this, by the way, so if it is all to go wrong, they do get 1 other hit in the heats. The semi-final, you make a mistake, you're out, and obviously in the final it's the same. He's gained on Marinic of Croatia. 0.48 ahead now, Adam Burgess from Stoke-on-Trent, who learnt on the River Trent with no white water around him at all, just going through the gates. That's lovely, through those 2. And now he'll paddle hard to the finish line, Adam Burgess, and through and leading in the heats with a smile and a wave and a thumbs up to his family, waving their Union Jacks with their yellow T-shirts on. He will qualify from these heats. Britain's Adam Burgess in the canoe is fastest by 0.74 seconds.
Oh, it is all happening here on 5 Live today, the first day of the Olympics in Paris. We're focusing right now at the moment on rugby sevens. It's South Africa against France, and you can hear Allez le Bleu singing out around the whole stadium. We've had multiple times we've heard La Marseillaise, the national anthem, but the score remains South Africa 0, France 0. Still 2.5 minutes of this first half to play. Alongside me, Tom Vandel, Commonwealth Games silver medalist with England. This is a tight affair.
It really is. It's very cagey. No team wants to make any mistakes. It's wet out there as well. You can see how slippery it is on the surface. There's a few errors. At the moment, you'd have to say France are on top. They spent most of the game in the South Africa half. But it takes one moment. It takes one moment of genius and magic, and the team scored. So it is. But you're right. It's very, very cagey at the moment.
Okay, both sides, they're just scrumming down outside of the South African 22. It is a South African ball. A reminder, a scrum has just only got 3 men in it, but it's a free kick straight away to the South Africans. It's hacked away down the park, this time by Van Wyk. The foot chase is on. Sefo is back there to gather for the French. They then pop off the ball. It's gathered this time by Williams. All of a sudden, France, who have been on the attack throughout the entire match so far, find themselves back at down their end of the field. They've got a long way to go to try and do something here. South Africa want the ball back. That was a knock-on at just the wrong moment for the French. What an opportunity here for South Africa.
Yeah, and that's the physicality we mentioned earlier on. South Africa, they happily kick the ball away. They're happy let France play from their own half. But that physicality, that rushing in defence just puts so much pressure. And when the weather is like this, when it is greasy, when the ball is slippery, these are the mistakes that happen.
Okay, what a moment then. The Stade de France got very nervous all of a sudden, because there is a scrum. It's 5 metres out from the French line, and it is a South African scrum. In sevens, it will be the first gold medal decided in a team sport at this Olympic Games. That will be decided at 6:45 tonight. The winner of this game will be playing in that match. The loser, of course, will head into the bronze medal match, that one at 6 o'clock UK time. Right then, here comes this scrum. It's still South Africa 0, France 0. 1 minute of the first half to play. As the ball is in, there's a real shove, and they're just trying to get the ball away there. It goes to Lades in the end, as then it's Oosthuizen who tries to work his way closer towards the French line. South Africa trying to find a way through here. This is their first real attacking set that they've managed to put together. Tackles raining in down on them, knocked on ball by the South Africans, and France will get the ball back.
Yeah, and that was a big moment there. You've got to give credit to the French defence there. They just kept coming up, putting pressure on the breakdown, and just forced that error. And these are the little moments that South Africa have to take, because realistically, in terms of the attack and the skill set, France are on top here. They're a better side, but South Africa just can't cough up opportunities like that.
Well, France qualified for the sevens at the Olympic Games as the host nation, of course. It's actually only their second Olympic appearance after Rio, because they didn't actually qualify for Tokyo. South Africa, they have been ever present. Bronze in Rio, 5th in Tokyo. As the ball is lost there by France, they're going to reset this one, and that is the halftime hooter. Just checking if the referee is going to reset for this scrum. Is he going to say that's half time? All eyes still on our referee in the middle of the park at the moment. I think he is going to play this, so we have got time. Let's head over. We're going to stay with this. They are going to play with this scrum. They're going to finish this off properly, and the crowd are happy to see more rugby. Right, the ball is going to come in. Playing scrum half is Perez Udo Martin. If you're worrying why that's not Antoine Dupont, because he's not on the field at the moment, he's on the bench. He'll be a super sub who comes off, no doubt, in the second half. Big spun out ball. Oh, that's a loose ball from France. They've had to take it over their line and touch down. As a result of that, surely that will be the half. And there you go. Half-time in the semi-final between South Africa and France. It's 0-0, Tom Valdal. You never see that.
Never, ever see that. It's been a very cagey first half. Quite a few errors. But, that second half, and like you say, super sub is coming on. Dupont, can't wait to hear the crowd react to him coming onto the pitch.
South Africa 0, France 0. And we'll come back for the second half. But now, Jonathan Overend, you're at the women's time trial.
Yes, exciting stuff here, entering the last half an hour or so of action on the streets of Paris in the pouring rain. All these riders setting off at 90-second intervals, so racing against the clock in isolation through the city streets, out to the east of the city, and then finishing on one of the most scenic bridges, the Pont Alexandre III, in the centre of the French capital. Anna Henderson is the medal contender from Great Britain, and she is on the course at the moment, on the road, and on the first split that we've seen after 13.1 kilometres, she is the third fastest rider on the road. So good news for Henderson. She is ahead of the rider who started just after her, Christina Schweinberger, but ahead of her she's got the race favourite Chloe Dygert from the United States, and then what could be quite a story, the Australian Grace Brown, who is going to retire at the end of the season, Commonwealth gold medalist. She finished 4th in Tokyo, but at the moment, Hayley Simmons, she's the leader on the road, and this would be some way for a career to end.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's made no secret of this being a major target for her. And actually, she's maybe had one of the easier or more simple run-ins of the kind of top medal contenders. You know, Chloe Dygert has had some crashes, some illness, as well as obviously having that horrendous injury back from Imola World Championships. Anna Henderson, as I said, has had some broken collarbones. Grace Brown has been, you know, head down, fully focused on this race, and clearly she is peaking at the right time.
In terms of Anna Henderson so far, we haven't seen too much of her on the pictures. We will do over the next 10-15 minutes or so as the field thins out and fewer riders are actually live on the road at any one time. But so far so good, do you feel?
Yeah, she's looking really strong, really in control. Time trialling is difficult. You always want to ask the question, could I sustain my current effort for the rest of the race? You don't want to say, yes, I could, because that means you're going too easy. You don't want to say, no, definitely not, because you're going too hard. You want to be maybe. So the aim is to be as consistent as you can through this race, and currently she looks in control.
The lead time at the moment has been set by the New Zealand rider, and that's Kim Kadzo, 41 minutes 46 seconds, 0.02. So that's the time to beat at the moment. The in the clubhouse time, if you like. But there's no doubt that Anna Henderson can beat that. At the moment on the road, she is the third fastest. So, Sarah, a medal is definitely a possibility here on the roads for Team GB.
Absolutely brilliant stuff there by Jonathan Overend. We'll keep you across that women's time trial here on 5 Live as it develops. But our focus right now is on this incredible semi-final in the Rugby Sevens between South Africa, the Blitz box, and the host nation, France, Les Bleus. It will be the first gold team medal that is decided later on today. These two sides, they are playing to make that gold medal match. It is 0-0 at the moment. We've got 6 minutes left, and that cheer you hear right now is because Antoine Dupont, considered the best player in the world in 15s, who has absolutely set sevens on fire this season, is on the field, Tom Vandal.
Yeah, and the stage is set for him, isn't it? It's 0-0. South Africa have actually come out very hard in this second half, going hard at the breakdowns, and Dupont now needs to grab hold and take control of this game. But the crowd, they absolutely love it, don't they?
Dupont cannot hear at all what his teammates are saying. They're having to go right up and scream in each other's faces to hear, because it is so noisy inside the Stade de France. Dupont gets the ball in, he feeds it out towards his backs, and one of his teammates knocks on the ball. It is so slippy out there. We have to give these guys a little bit of a license here.
Yeah, it is. It's tough conditions. It is so greasy underfoot. The ball is like a bar of soap. But this is the big stage. You know, you can't give away mistakes. You can't make mistakes like this. South Africa, it actually suits their style of game. They're so aggressive. They're so physical. They're going to go hard at the breakdowns and try and force more of these errors from France.
Okay, so the ball was knocked on by France, and they're just on their own 22-metre line at the moment, and it is a South African scrum. So they're waiting for the ball to come in from both sides. South Africa were actually the last team to actually qualify for the sevens. They had to go to the repechage in Monaco and win that tournament. That was the moment where GB's men could no longer get to the Olympics because South Africa beat them. So much talk about why Great Britain's men aren't there and a lack of funding. But it is South Africa who are there, and they're flying away. They're 10 metres away now from that French line. Huge tackles raining in, and in from the side come the French. Penalty given away, and it's the South Africans to go quickly. Could they score first in the semi-final? It has been absolutely swung out towards the far side. Surely a South African try coming, it is. And it is Lades who goes over in the corner. South Africa lead 5-0.
Yeah, and that was good execution. They've just spun the ball wide, little bounce pass, obviously held the defence a little bit, and they've gone in the corner. But that was a good finish. You know, in tough conditions, Dupont comes on, gives away a penalty. He's the one that got pinged. Slightly harsh, I thought. But look, France got to come back. They've got to bounce back from this.
Now, Antoine Dupont, when he came on in the quarter-final, he also gave away a couple of penalties there as well. So as much as he is a star right now, and we are absolutely billing him to the highest order, he's got to be careful, because a star can become a villain.
Yeah, he can. And the game, it is different to 15s. It's refereed slightly differently. The breakdown's slightly different, and you have to adjust to that. You have to sort of play to the referee, and you know he has got pinged there, and put his team, you know, on the back foot a little bit.
All the slow-mos in the stadium show Dupont looking up at the sky as if to say, not now, not now. So much history that Antoine Dupont has lived in this stadium, inside the Stade de France, of course, where France went out of their home World Cup against South Africa. surely it won't repeat itself again. He must be thinking, he described himself as distraught then, the French 15's captain, when that happened, and he's on the ball right now. It's South Africa who lead 5-0 here on 5 Live in this semi-final. There is still 3 minutes and 39 seconds for France to try and find their way to that gold medal match as the ball is popped off and away, taken forward this time by Dressage. He goes down onto the ground, and France are a long way out. They've got an awful long way to go. Dupont back on the ball once again, feeds down towards this near side. It's been a lot of drop balls so far by the French. Sefo now is on it. South Africa, they're not committing too many players at the moment to the ruck, and it's just holding back this French side. They're stuck inside of their own. Oh, beautiful break here by France. Really nice stuff by Joseph. Joseph, he's really got to put his foot to the throttle. He's going to be caught. Now we get the catch up and going over. Finally, France get their try. They need to convert it, but in the end, Dressage goes over and the stadium goes bananas.
Oh yeah, and that's what they're looking for, isn't it? That one moment. They've kept hold of the ball, they've kept patient, they haven't tried to force anything, no big missed passes. They've just picked off the South African defence, found the shoulder, gone through the gap, and the support play was brilliant. And that's what France need, and the crowd are absolutely loving that.
Well, Pasquet started that one a long way out. So many involved in it. It was Dressage who actually finished it. He's the kicker as well, plays his rugby at Toulon. And the kick here will be all important because South Africa missed their conversion. If France get this conversion, it means that they lead. It's Dressage right in front of us right now. He takes the drop goal and it's over. France lead in the semi-final.
Yeah, and obviously they get to do the restart as well and put pressure back on South Africa. So that was a big moment. A couple of minutes left on the clock. They just got to keep it real tight and obviously just continue playing how they've done for the last 45 seconds. That patient play, that patient build-up. South Africa aren't committing as many numbers now to the breakdown, and they're going to have to go and chase the game.
Okay, South Africa 5, France 7, and there is 1 minute and 50 seconds left on the clock. Are France heading to that gold medal match? Dupont gets the ball out. Oh, this is a big moment here for France. Is this another try? Is this the moment that sends them into that vital match? It was Pasquet. He's over the line, but he's been held up over the line. They will have to come back.
Yeah, and pressure. Again, they got the kick-off. They recovered the kick-off. Put South Africa under pressure straight away, and they're almost back in for another try. They're going to check this on the TMO. Don't think he got over. I think he was held up. But again, the pressure is all on South Africa now.
Sometimes you can just tell by a player's body language if they think they've scored something or not. Pascal goes over the line, but the South African players are there. If this is grounded, I think it'll be more by accident than actually anything else.
I was lucky when I played. There wasn't too many TMOs, so every time I went over, I was cheering, even if I knew I hadn't scored the try.
Tom Vandel, silver medalist with England at the Commonwealth Games, is with us, and no try there for France, but they still lead 7-5. But the ball has been knocked on in that phase of play. Oh no, this thing's held up over the line, and this is 7s, remember, this is not 15. So if we were playing 15s right now, this would be a goal line dropout. We're playing 15s, it's a scrum to France.
Yeah, it is a scrum to France. They can keep the pressure on. They get a try now, it's game over. 1 minute 20 on the clock. France, look, they've got one foot in the final already, and the crowd, they're going to get right behind them. The pressure's still on, obviously, the French team, but if they can finish here, get the try, it is game over.
The French coach is Jerome Darret. He looks so stressed on the sidelines, and who can blame him? Talk about a whole nation with expectation. Ball comes away from France. They're going through the middle. They've lost the ball backwards, but it is backwards. Referee says play on. The South African players appeal for a knock-on. Are they given the decision? The referee still hasn't given it yet. I think he might have given away a penalty against the South Africans, as all of a sudden they take the penalty quickly, France, and they go over to Dressage. That's the second try, and surely that means now that France will be in the gold medal match with 30 seconds to play.
That is game over. 30 seconds left on the clock. Quick thinking then from the French and the quick tap penalty. Unfortunately for South Africa, they got caught offside, and that's it. Game done. South Africa, fair play to them. Look, huge effort in that first half, but just so much talent in this French side.
Dupont with the assist as well. He completely wrong-footed the South Africans. 7s happens fast. And I tell you what, if you listen back to the Rugby Union Weekly podcast, Danny Kerr said that Antoine Dupont was going to win a gold medal, and it looks like they're just a little bit closer to that moment happening.
Yeah, and just little bits like that Dupont does, that speed of thought, quick thinking. That's what he's in the team for. That's what he does in the 15s every single week for his club and for his country, and that's what he's done today when he's come on the pitch today for the 7s guys. South
Africa 5, France 14. It's all over. There's nothing South Africa can do now.
They had to restart the game because there was still time on the clock, but the ball is going to have to go off the field, and France are going to be through to a very magical moment at 6:45 this evening. We're just waiting for South Africa. They're playing for pride now. 7 points now. It's just not enough for them. They can only get up to 12. They can't get to that 14 that France have. And you have to give credit to the blitz box because they are still fighting, and they've knocked on the it's stolen ball on the floor. What a finish by the French. It's Sefo who goes over for their 4th try, and what a moment. France are into the gold medal match at the men's rugby sevens in front of 69,000 packed into the Stade de France. By the time this rugby sevens tournament is over, nearly 500,000 will have watched it live inside the stadium, and this is such a moment for Paris 2024.
It is. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's brilliant for the game. It's brilliant for France, obviously. It's just the perfect ending, isn't it? That's what you want. The crowd getting behind their country. And France, they've had to play a different style of sevens in this game because of the conditions, because of the way South Africa play. They've had to adapt, and they've come through it.
Well, it is all over then in the first semi-final. We've got another one coming up between Fiji and Australia, but it is France who are through to the gold medal match. South Africa, they will play in the bronze medal match. Everyone's going to be talking about Antoine Dupont for the next 4 hours, Mark Chapman, but all you need to know is it is South Africa 5, France 19.
Right, I'll come back to you two in just a moment, but let's go back to the women's time trial. Jonathan Overend.
Building towards a thrilling conclusion here on the soggy streets of central Paris, and it is on. And by that I mean a second medal of the day for Team GB. Anna Henderson out on the streets at the moment looking good. She is the 3rd fastest rider actually live on the roads. But the big story in the last few minutes is that the clear race favourite and world champion Chloe Dygert has taken a fall, which has really set her back. Now, Dygert is still in 2nd position, silver medal position on the roads, but only, Hayley, by 2/100ths of a second ahead of Anna Henderson. So not only is a bronze on for Anna Henderson, potentially a silver could be as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you never know what this crash is going to do to Chloe's mindset. Is it going to make her more cautious in the closing corners? Is it going to spur her on? Is she going to have that adrenaline rush? We don't want to see medals being lost on a crash, but, this course is giving us everything today, I think.
But Anna Henderson has played it really well from what we've seen so far. She's combined speed with caution around the tricky bends as well. She's stayed on 2 wheels, absolutely crucial. And to be this close, potentially to an Olympic medal, it's going to make for a very, very exciting next few minutes. The race leader is Grace Brown, the Australian, the Commonwealth champion, who plans to retire at the end of the season. She finished 4th in Tokyo by just a few seconds. So what an extraordinary story that would be. But certainly from a British point of view, it's all eyes now on Anna Henderson, who's only got, a couple of Ks left.
Yeah, you know what? Anna's ridden this brilliantly because, like I said before, you weren't going to win today on being brave, but you could certainly lose it. But Anna has kind of attacked this course with exactly the right amount of kind of risk-taking versus being cautious where she needs to be, and she's stayed on 2 wheels, and like you said, that's been key for today's race. And she's no stranger to kind of losing out on a result due to crashing. She crashed at the national championships last year and ended up finishing outside the top 10 as a result, and she's learned from that.
Chloe Dygert is at Place de Nation out in the east of the city at the moment. The number 1 rider, the rider who started last, so in theory you would feel would have the best chance of winning. She's chasing down Grace Brown from Australia, but Brown has ridden this absolutely superbly and looks on course for the gold at the moment. Behind them, Christina Schweinberger, the Austrian, who started 3rd from last. She's had problems today, and it has not been a good run for her. In fact, she's been overtaken by Grace Brown with some considerable distance still to go, leaving Anna Henderson, as things stand, looking for a bronze medal, potentially for a silver, heading towards the final stage of this road time trial.
And it is Anna Henderson, as things stand, in the bronze medal position. Back with the finale in just a few moments. Let's update on the test match. Here's Dan Norcross.
No 33rd century for Joe Root. He's just been given out LBW. Good ball from Moti. Came on with the arm, trapped him bang in front, didn't bother to refer it. He's gone for 87. England 231 for 7. Chris Wokes has come to join Jamie Smith, who's on 37.
Thank you, Dan. Nice story at the moment as Juliette Labourque crosses the line for France, and that is an excellent ride from her, cheered all the way to the end by these crowds who are lining the streets and lining the bridge here in central Paris, undeterred by the terrible weather. The brollies are up all around, the puddles have been gathering on the roads, the white lines of the pedestrian crossings have been catching riders out. We've seen slips, we've seen slides, and we also see pictures of complete exhaustion on the finishing line, Hayley Simmons, from those who have given absolutely everything to get to the end.
Yeah, that's actually a great ride from Labou. She seemed to just get faster and faster as the race went on, and she'll be spurred on by the home crowds and the atmosphere here in Paris. And yeah, that was an incredible ride. But we saw Mika Kroger a bit earlier also collapse by the finish line, and it just goes to show just how much these women are giving in this kind of 40-minute effort.
Well, Anna Henderson will have rounded the famous Place de Bastille now and is heading towards home, soon to cross the River Seine at Pont-Sully and onto the Boulevard Saint-Germain, which is this thrilling 5-kilometre, almost straight and flat sprint to the finish. But with the additional hazards of the surface water and the tricky road conditions, but it does look as if she is through the worst of it. The worst has been in the park, the Bois de Vincennes, out to the east, where we've seen multiple crashes over the course of this time trial, and I dare say we're going to see many more as well, with the men's race to follow later in the afternoon. But as things stand, Anna Henderson from Hemel Hempstead, the 25-year-old, is on course for the bronze medal at this women's time trial, which of course would be a second medal on day one for Team GB, still with 2 or 3 kilometres to go. On the road, Grace Brown from Australia, the Commonwealth champion, is the race leader and looks to be heading out on an absolute high with the gold medal. Can Chloe Dygert, the race favourite, do anything about that? Well, Dygert set back by the crash that she sustained in the back half of the race. It's really put her away from the gold medal. You've got to feel it. Brown's lead is substantial, isn't it, Hayley?
Yeah, I mean, Grace Brown was leading by 51 seconds at the second checkpoint.
As we look at Henderson speeding for home, sorry to interrupt, but we'll see if Henderson can take the clubhouse lead, as it were, as she comes down Boulevard Saint-Germain, round the back of Musée d'Orsay, off the quay, and turning now onto Pont Alexandre III. It's the sprint for home for Anna Henderson. Can she take the lead? She's got 15 seconds where she needs to cross the line to finish ahead of France. 10 seconds to go to put herself into the lead, and she makes it. It's a 10-second clear advantage for Anna Henderson. It's a brilliant ride from her, gritting her teeth, staring for the finish line, head down and pedalling powerfully over the line. Now she waits to see whether that time will be overtaken. 3 more riders on the road, so if one of those riders doesn't beat her time, Britain has another gold medal. It is Grace Brown leading for Australia, and she's hammering down that Boulevard Saint-Germain. There is absolutely no stopping her. It looks like she's going to win this gold medal by an absolute country mile. And what a story it is. 4th in Tokyo, just missed out on a medal, and now in the final season of her career, it looks like she's going to win Olympic gold.
Yeah, you know what? I'm getting emotional watching this, and she can almost, she doesn't need to take any risks in these final corners. She can relax, she can enjoy it. She can almost celebrate when she goes over the line, which is almost unheard of in a time trial. You don't get that opportunity, but this is an absolutely phenomenal ride. I mean, she's making the other times look slow, and they're just not at all.
She's absolutely smashing it, the Australian. She's going to be next across the line, which means Christina Schweinberger, who started after Anna Henderson, is going to be well down, which increases the chances of a British medal. But here comes Grace Brown for Australia. It will not be confirmed just yet as gold, but you've got to feel with a 1 minute 31 second advantage on Anna Henderson, who's probably going to win bronze, that
is going to be gold for Australia. What a phenomenal effort from Grace Brown. And if that is to be the end of her career, what a way to go. But now, crucially, we look at the two riders left on the road. Christina Schweinberger from Austria and Chloe Dygert from the United States. They are the only two riders now who can beat Anna Henderson of Great Britain. And it's Schweinberger who comes onto the bridge now, but she's 2 minutes down. She's a long way down off Brown, and she's not going to beat Brown. She's not going to beat Henderson either. And that means it is a second medal of the day for Great Britain. Anna Henderson has won at least bronze. Fantastic achievement in the cycling time trial. She'll know it. But they have to wait before the official confirmation of the results, and we wait for Chloe Dygert, who is the only remaining rider left on the road. The reigning world champion from the United States. Olympic medals from Rio and Tokyo in the team pursuit, going for the full set. And she is on Boulevard Saint-Germain now. She is steaming for home. It's fast and it's flat. It's on the left bank of Paris in the pouring rain. But she now knows that with Grace Brown untouchable, she's got to hunt down Anna Henderson's time. She has 1 kilometre to go. One painful minute for Anna Henderson to wait on the bridge. Is she going to do it?
This is going to be so close between them, and I honestly, I don't know which way this is going to go. I mean, Grace Brown has put in a phenomenal ride, but Chloe Dygert is, she's going to give absolutely everything. She'll know that a medal is within touching distance.
The time for Anna Henderson was 41 minutes, 9.83 seconds. So that is the time for Dygert to beat. This is the race for silver at the Olympic Games. Henderson is already guaranteed at least the bronze medal. But now, will it be bronze or will it be silver on a medal-strewn day for Team GB? The Grand Palais emerges in the distance, and then the wonderful features of the Pont Alexandre de Troyes is in the distance as well. Chloe Dygert is hunting down Henderson. 40 minutes and 40 seconds. So 30 seconds she needs to finish from now. She might just do it. This is going to be agonising for Henderson, waiting with her bike on the bridge. Dygert, the world champion, is going to turn right now. She's going to swing over a pedestrian crossing and onto the bridge. It's going to be so close. Henderson guaranteed a bronze, but will it be silver? Here comes Dygert. What's her time going to be? She's bearing down on the line on the bridge. 1:32 behind Brown, and she is third. Henderson wins silver. What an achievement for Britain. Anna Henderson, Olympic silver medalist. I don't think anybody expected that.
No, you know what? You could see how tentatively Chloe Dygert took that final corner, just that crash in her mind. But, Anna Henderson rode this race so well. She had a clean run, and that's really what mattered today, and she's been rewarded with a silver medal.
All smiles for Grace Brown of Australia. She is the champion, the Olympic gold medalist. But boy, oh boy, put out the bunting in Hemel Hempstead High Street, because you have an Olympic silver medalist in Anna Henderson. What an incredible feat on a terrible, treacherous day around the streets of Paris, but she has navigated it like the pro she is, and in a few minutes' time we'll have an Olympic silver medal around her neck. What an opening day for Britain it's been. A bronze in the aquatic centre at the diving for Yasmin Harper and Scarlett Mew-Jensen, trumped by a silver for Anna Henderson in the women's time trial.
And you've done both of those, Jonathan. So on behalf of Team GB, where are you off to next?
I'll go wherever they want me to go.
That was, I think you've kind of said it, Hayley, really, haven't you? That was a nigh on perfect ride from Anna Henderson, given the conditions.
Yeah, you know what? You had to have a clean run today, and she played it perfectly. She balanced the exact right level of where to apply the power and where she needed to be a little bit more careful, because the only thing that she was going to do today, if she took risks, was lose a medal.
Just on the final timings, Mark, she's won that silver by less than a second.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it. Yes.
So that fall basically was what did for Chloe Dygert.
Yeah, so, I mean, the gaps at the second checkpoint, Dygert and Henderson were right on par, but Chloe Dygert at first checkpoint had, I think, 16 seconds over Anna Henderson, so she lost that 16 seconds during the fall, and then I think what it came down to in that final section between checkpoint 2 and the finish was that Chloe obviously was aware that she'd fallen, and you could just see around that final corner she was much more cautious than she otherwise would have been and had been earlier on in the race, and that